The red stuff, I'm guessing, is so this is there's blueberry grape.
And it's lemonade drink that was made red by the blueberries and the grapes. It was made red.
That's expert level. Right
So
That
Dr.
is.
Shadi makes a mean
And-
cocktail here.
And if I had more time, like you can infuse mint leaves in it the night before.
Oh, so
the night
so
before.
you keep it the night
Yeah.
before, mashallah.
Yeah.
Inshallah.
This I made fresh, right? And I crushed the blueberries, the grapes, and then I crushed ice, and I put the crushed ice in it.
Oh.
So it gives it that sort of slushy type of feel to it. And then if you really get creative, you infuse a lot of mint leaves in it, right? Not separate the mint leaves. You keep the mint leaves in one stalk so that you could take the whole stalk out.
Yeah, that
Right?
makes sense. That's how
You-
good tea is made.
Yeah.
too. Yeah, you never separate them.
You infuse the mint from the night before,
Mashallah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, who needs bars and alcohol?
Oh, yeah.
Hot cocktails.
A lot of things I just do them straight in my house. Like I'll never buy a smoothie. I'll never mainly I don't buy coffee, right? Unless I'm on the road. Make that at home. Tea outside. Anyone who pays for tea outside the house is just foolish. Unless it's a desi restaurant, like good
yeah.
chai.
I mean, that's the only place
Yeah.
you really pay
Yeah.
for tea,
Yeah.
right?
Would you ever go to a restaurant and someone orders tea in front of you? I've never seen that.
It's just a
I-
bag
I-
and water.
I know. Have you ever seen anyone at like Wawa or something
I
buy
order tea. I order tea at like Asian places.
Because it's a unique tea.
Good, like hibiscus tea.
Yeah.
And stuff like
Yeah,
that.
that's unique
Yeah,
tea.
yeah.
I one time,
It's actually free at a lot of Asian places. They'll just give you
Oh.
tea.
yeah.
If you go to like bougie Asian.
I remember
places.
the first time when I got my license, when I got my driver's license, I went to Wawa. We have something in South Jersey and Pennsylvania called Wawa. You have it, right?
That's where it
That's-
started.
Okay, so Wawa, which this guy started off taking his milk to the local fairs every Saturday. That's how he started in Wawa, Pennsylvania. And then he had ambition, right? And he grew and grew and grew, and now he's this thing. So I was on my way to Rutgers, and I was like feeling a little bit drowsy. I got tea, right, from Wawa. I went home because I forgot something. Had to go back. And my dad looked at me. He's like, "Why would you pay money for that? The tea bag is right there." Then I put two and two together. But subhanallah, youth do some stupid things, man.
Yeah.
And if you're a parent, you just have to have a lot of sabr. And the best thing for a parent is a good memory of yourself, right? You do a lot of stupid and annoying things, and it's subhanallah. You grow every year. I regret more and more things that I did. I wouldn't have done anything different because that's all I knew, right? You can only work with the set that you have. So I only work with the set that I have. There's no ideal. There's the real, right? Whatever experience, brain, whatever thoughts, that's what I have. I got to work with it.
Mashallah.
So I don't regret it from the moral standpoint, but I regret it from the knowledge standpoint. Like if I had
Yeah.
known better, I
Yeah.
would have been differently. But hey, at every turn, I can only work with what I have, with the knowledge that I have.
Yeah.
Right.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Welcome to the Safina Society podcast. Today we're joined by Dr. Shadi, myself. We have Nazmul here joining us, and Alex, who is running a few minutes late. But he should be coming in through the door any minute now, so you'll maybe hear some background noise. So today the topic that we want to talk about is I want to get started on Ashura. So tell me a little bit about that.
Okay. I'm gonna get to Ashura. Something that I skipped my mind. I think we talk about the base of this.
The base of
The
the
base
drink?
of this drink.
Ah,
So
no.
this drink, the base you could use for this little mix, you can do two things: Sprite and lemonade, Sprite and iced tea, Sprite and lemonade and iced tea. But this is a Trader Joe's, like a natural soda type of thing, lemonade soda.
like seltzer water.
It's a fizzy lemonade soda, right? So you can you do a lot of these things,
like
right?
like a La Croix.
Yeah. I don't know. What is
Bro.
that? What is that?
Sounds like one of those things you have.
It's probably not pronounced La Croix. It's probably pronounced like
La
Croix.
Cruche.
La Croix. Or so
man.
All right. So let's get to the serious topic of Ashura, right?
Oh, man.
So Ashura is a very, very important topic. And first of all, we operate with seasons. And if you think about the Hijri calendar, it's really wonderful. We just came out of the last season of the year. And many people don't know that when Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab needed to make a year, and they agreed, and it was actually the suggestion of Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib, let's make the hijrah the start of the new year, because that's the first time that the Prophet ﷺ was able to establish his law, right? The law of Allah. Other than that, he was not establishing his law, he's just given the message. So Sayyidina Umar said this makes a lot of sense. So that's the first year that we start counting the years of Islam for real, because that's when Islam began to be implemented as the law of the city. Afterwards, well, when you have a year, you have to have a beginning of the year, right? So Sayyidina Umar then began that discussion. And that discussion was Sayyidina Uthman who said, Amir al-Mu'mineen, we make Hajj and we renew our slate. So let's make Dhul Hijjah the last year of the calendar, right? Let's make Dhul Hijjah the last year of the calendar. So everyone loved that from the elders of the Sahaba that were in the council, in the Shura. So they made Dhul Hijjah the last month of the year. So that marks the new slate. Dhul Hijjah is really the new slate, right? Both in religion and in the year. So now we're in the Hijrah year 1441. We begin a new slate. And the first season, it's a small season, right, is Ashura. 10 days into the new year, we fast 2 days, preferably, right? The 10th and the 9th, or the 10th and the 11th. The Prophet ﷺ said he hoped that this removes the sins of a year. And the original intent of that is that it was the day that Prophet Musa alayhi salam was freed from the Bani Israel. And at the same time, it was the same day that Sayyidina Hussein was killed, right? Now, if you notice in both cases, the analogy or the comparison is not very difficult to get. They are both going against their oppressor, okay? One lived to see his victory over his enemy.
Right. Musa.
Sayyidina Musa. He lived to see the defeat of the enemy. He did not live to see the attainment of the goal, which is the promised land. Sayyidina Hussein, by the way, Ahlul Bayt, you're allowed to say alayhi salam as well. Because in Salat al-Tashahhud, what do you say? Right? You say salam upon him, right? So Sayyidina Imam al-Bukhari, he says, Bab on Fada'il Sayyidah Fatima alayhi salam. So this is a very orthodox, it's not a Shi'i leaning, it's nothing, okay? So Sayyidina Imam al-Hussein, radiallahu ta'ala anhu alayhi salam, okay, he did not live to see the defeat of his enemy, but he did defeat his enemy. How did he defeat his enemy, you might ask? He said this is not a legitimate ruler. And if you look in any bab of fiqh, the ruler has to have conditions. There's conditions. The first condition is adala, right? That he's upright.
Right, absolutely.
Right? They even say more that he really should be a mujtahid imam, so that he does not have to rely upon someone. Because the one who relies upon someone else is inferior, right? Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab did not have to ask anyone except Sayyidina Ali for counsel, in a serious way, right? Sayyidina Ali did not ask anyone, right? There's no record that Sayyidina Ali needed to ask anyone else for anything, right? Matters of fiqh and deen. Sayyidina Umar said, "Bi's al-maqam laysa fi Abu al-Hasan," right? A bad city or a bad place that does not have Abu al-Hasan. Why? Because he was in a place, a fiqh question came up. He needed Sayyidina Ali's advice. He didn't get it. But Sayyidina Ali was in Medina, right? So he said, "Bi's al-maqam laysa fi Abu al-Hasan," and he also said, "Lawla Aliyun lafasad Umar, lahalak Umar." If it was not for Ali, Umar would be destroyed. So that's how close Umar and Ali was. And Sayyidina Ali loved Sayyidina Umar, right? He named two of his sons Umar, not one. Umar the first and Umar the second, right?
Interesting.
So he loved Sayyidina Umar that much. So when people say Abu Umar, I mean, that's your Imam was Abu Umar.
Yeah.
Sayyidina Ali was Abu Umar. Of course, he's Abu al-Hasan, in fact, but his sons were named Umar.
Wow.
In any event, how did Sayyidina al-Hussein, what did he do? He saw that Yazid was illegitimate. Okay, and he therefore resisted and refused to give him allegiance, and this is a valid position in Sharia, right? When the ruler is illegitimate, okay, did not give him allegiance, and he went out. Now he went out to meet with his people in Kufa, his old followers from his dad's side, right? When his father had led the Khilafah in Kufa, so obviously we know the story that he never made it to them, and they became scared. Right, and they did not come out to give him victory. We know that, okay? But our point is, he did see that Yazid was illegitimate, refused to give him the bay'ah, and went to some sort of resistance. He never even got to make a plan. We do not know that he was going to take up make a war. We don't know that for sure. I mean, it's highly speculative. I mean, likely that he could have, right? But we don't know anything. That wasn't. There's no certainty on that. There is certainty. He felt he was illegitimate, and he's going to take. He's not giving him the bay'ah, and he's going to resist him. Now, many other Sahaba, they did give the bay'ah. They saw that they weren't capable of resisting, and that resisting may cause some other fitna. But he saw someone in the ummah. We cannot just allow this to happen, right? And this is the idea. You cannot just allow oppression, dhulm, to happen. There has to be a reaction. I said many times I regret things. I regret that I do have some bad blood with some other Sunni imams, right? And people. But at the time, I felt I have to do something, and this is the basic capability of what I could do. They didn't like it, right? But would I regret? I regret the fact that I'm not happy with the fact that there's any bad blood between me and any other Muslim, right? However, I don't regret taking action. You have to take action, right? So this is what he did. Now, there was an ambivalence about the correctness of his action, okay? There was an ambivalence about that. That, is this really correct? Should he have gone out, etc.? There was ambivalence on, is Yazid really that bad? People did not know what he had known. You have to know this, right? Not everyone knew what he knew about Yazid. It's not like it was today, the whole ummah knows. No, people didn't know. How would information like that transfer to everyone? So most people were like, I don't really know what's going on. Okay.
And it's also very different living in the real world at that time versus reading it in a textbook.
Of course.
Reading it in a textbook.
Yeah, of course.
Or reading it, through passed down knowledge from your
Yeah.
lineage and things like that, right? It's very different living in that actual time period.
Exactly. So things are not known. If you think about it, in the early books of fiqh, they have a question of, does eating cooked meat break your wudu? So many things that we think are take for granted were just not known by that time.
Yeah, this
right?
is something I think about often, especially when there's people living in the desert. There's many people who have probably never seen the ocean, right, at that
That's
time.
true.
There's
That's very
there's
true.
Never
seen water. Yeah.
Never seen water before, like
In an ocean, yeah.
or a lake or
a
anything,
river,
right?
yeah.
So it's interesting to think about, even in the fiqh books, that these things are there, where there's probably Sahaba that may or may not have seen the ocean.
How many people, think about, knew that Karbala event was even happening at the time? When people say, how did the Ummah allow this? How did they think they knew? There wasn't Twitter feeds back then, right?
How did the world allow the Holocaust, right?
Yeah,
Things like
exactly.
that happened. And mind you, that was way
bigger, right?
bigger, and
in terms of numbers and in terms of the complication of it and the time that it took. This was
news existed, and there was
exactly,
all
that.
You could get information around the world much quicker.
So now, what's my point in saying that he did defeat his enemy? He just didn't live to see it. Is that as there was lack of knowledge of Yazid's corruption, except for some people, knew it. Okay, there was lack of because there was a lack of that awareness. There was a lack of movement. Only he moved, and his supporters. Now, what he did was, by poking this bear, he elicited a reaction. Whenever you take the initiative, think about this: Sayyidina Musa, Sayyidina Hussein. Yes, they're both in the weaker positions materially, but who's dictating? They're both dictating the action. If you think about it, they're not reacting; they're acting, and the tyrant, the despot, is reacting. So when you take the initiative, you force three things to happen. One of three things is going to happen. The despot, the oppressor, does nothing. Your adversary does nothing. If he does nothing, he's in trouble because he set the precedent, so he can't do nothing. Right? Number two, he changes his ways. If he changes his ways, good. You've achieved your goal. Number three, he reacts in the wrong, immorally, in the wrong, with the haram. If he does that, he digs his deeper hole. So what did Yazid do? He sent, what's his name? Ibn Ziyad, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, and he gave him orders to quell this thing. And he sent the most wicked guy. He's a wicked guy, right? And he ended up having no mercy, and he killed them all. We know the story, right? If you don't know the story, we're not going to recount the whole thing, but you can go get it. We're giving you the mulakhas. He killed them all.
Go to a reliable source.
Yeah, you have to go to a reliable
source. Don't go to
source.
Shia chat or something.
Yeah, there's Ibn. They have stuff that was impossible to narrate.
Assalamu alaikum, by the way.
Walaikum salam.
Let me just interject and say that we all have to have the most somber possible voices, because any kind of
levity
at all it's canceled on Twitter when
Yeah.
discussing anything serious.
That's
there can
true.
be no levity attached to it, or else you're canceled.
Oh, they're canceled. Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
So, but it's really more the
Oh,
ridiculousness
before you actually continue, I'm gonna make a side point here.
Yeah.
That there may be times in this episode where there is levity.
Yeah, I don't really care about Twitter
No,
canceling me.
no.
I've already canceled them.
I'm moments away from canceling Twitter.
No, I'm not canceling my Twitter. I'm not going to ruin myself for them. No,
No,
I've
I mean
canceled
canceling them, yeah.
Oh, canceling them. Yeah.
Muslim Twitter.
I've already canceled them all. Anyway. Yeah.
People can turn off the episode right now.
Actually,
they
you know
can-
what?
They can have their money back.
No, they should take off. They should, no, what they can do is they can make clips and then go, see? Look at what you
Go
people are doing.
Yeah, go ahead. Listen, what I've came across very early on in social media is that this whole idea of outrage against you, you gotta learn to use that for yourself, right? So the only thing is that if I'm not wrong in the sight of Allah, in general, if a person's not wrong in the sight of Allah, that's the only thing you got to care about.
Right.
You have to put yourself mentally and emotionally in a position where that's literally the only thing. There's nothing else banking on it, right? Like the people who bank on making the speaker circuit, for example. I'm not saying it's bad. It's fine, right?
It's a job.
It's a job,
I
right?
don't-
It's a very touchy job, though.
I don't say crazy things to my employer.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
That's
I get
true.
it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. So, but being the case, you also know that there's going to be limitations with that, right? So if you're employed by the general Muslim community organizations and institutions and conferences, you have to go in that and recognize that,
Yeah, you
right?
gotta-
I've got limitations. I can't say a lot of things,
You got to operate on the LCD,
which is
lowest common denominator.
yeah, which is what? How low is it now?
Salah, fasting, general modesty, not
Tawheed?
specific.
About Tawheed?
Tawheedish,
Yeah.
and and
Homosexuals.
anti whatever oppressor du jour.
Pro Bernie Sanders.
Pro Bernie.
Okay.
Gotta be
So
pro LGBT too.
Yeah, well that's you know.
soft on that or no comment on this?
No, pro.
Pro as well.
No, for the general Muslim,
Yeah.
it's soft on it.
Soft on it,
Soft on it. These people, we have to understand and
Yeah.
be kind to them. White converts are the devil,
Oh my gosh.
but LGBT haram.
Subhanallah.
You gotta
Subhanallah.
have some
Yeah.
now.
Subhanallah.
Be nice.
So,
But hold on,
Yeah.
I was gonna say before, it's not about the Muslim Twitter. It's not about the social media. I was going to say in general, there may be people who are not on Twitter and social media and these things listening to this episode.
Inshallah.
Inshallah, and there will perhaps throughout this episode be moments of levity and non-levity, and I don't think there's any intention or malintent by anybody here against speaking about any of these topics, especially the Ahlul Bayt, right?
Yeah, of course.
We,
Now-
we love the Ahlul Bayt more.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's number one. We actually love them properly, without exceeding limits.
yeah.
We mourn them
The limits
to
being
the limits of the Sunnah.
cursing of Sahaba.
Yeah,
Uh,
and the
Abu
limits
Bakr
being physically harming yourself.
Yeah.
And the limits being doing things that every single one of them would find offensive and ridiculous. That's
Right.
We love them and we mourn them in the appropriate way.
Without going astray on the issue.
Right.
As Sheikh Sadiq had always said, and love your Sheikh, love the awliya, don't go astray, right? Simple rule. So back to where do we leave off? We left off that I was saying that Yazid sent that. So of the three possibilities that he has, and I'll repeat them. When you poke the bear has three possibilities. He's going to do nothing. He shows that he's weak. He's going to have rebellions everywhere. Number two, he's going to do the right thing, which you achieved your goal and he turned out to be good. Number three, he's going to react in the wrong way, right? He's reacting the wrong way. And if he reacts in the wrong way, he digs his grave even deeper and he's morally done. So he reacted in the wrong way. All right, some people, historians will say, okay, let's just give the man a benefit of the doubt. It's his first year ruling. He's maybe has a complex, how am I ever going to be as honorable as Ahlul Bayt, and I can't have this, and this is a rebellion against me, and I made ijtihad, and I quelled the rebellion. Let's say hypothetically. All right, well, what did Yazid do after that? To show that his intent was not good, and it was not an accident, and it was not just a wrong ijtihad. Because when a Muslim makes a legitimate and tries to do the right thing, okay, Allah does not blind them. But when someone does the wrong thing, Allah blinds them. And what's the proof that Yazid was blinded? Because when Sayyidina Hussein alayhi salam was martyred and killed, the Hijaz went erupted. Because where was he living at the time? He was living in Medina, right? He had moved back from Kufa to Medina. So, and he was teaching hadith in the mosque. Him and his brother, they would teach in the masjid, okay? And living off of a stipend from Sayyidina Muawiyah. Muawiyah had put them on a stipend, right? Okay? So, he's known in the community of Medina. They erupted, okay? They erupted. So, when they reacted with that reaction, what did Yazid do? Did he repent to Allah? He said, look, if all of Medina is reacting against me, maybe I'm wrong. I repent to Allah. No, he didn't. Nope. He was blinded, which showed that he had a bad intent. And secondly, when they say, oh, well, maybe Ibn Ziyad did it, but Yazid didn't, he disavowed from it. What are you talking about? Umar ibn Khattab said, if a mule breaks its leg in a ditch in the street of Kufa, I'm responsible. Let's say Umar ibn Khattab. So when the grandson of the Prophet is like beheaded, you're going to tell me he didn't know? Are you kidding? Right? That's not husn al-dhan, that's stupidity level. Right? So he then goes and sends an army to Medina. And the Prophet ﷺ said, the curse of Allah Ta'ala be upon who ahdatha fil Medina hadathan. Whoever creates tumult in Medina. The curse of Allah be upon him. Okay? So what does he do? He goes, and we call that, and they call in the books of history, the Battle of Al-Harra. And in that battle, he went in, many people were killed. It was tumult in the city to the point that in the Masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, Salah was not established for 3 days. So what kind of Khalifa is this, right? Who, the result of your Khilafah is that Salah in the Masjid of the Prophet's Mosque is not established. It's not established. And not only that, what do we know about the Masjid of the Prophet? We know it from Sa'id ibn Musayyib. And is there anyone more reliable than Sa'id ibn Musayyib in terms of narration? Because he's considered the most knowledgeable of the Tabi'een. Sa'id Musayyib at this time was a teen. Later in his life, he was asked, how did you attain your rank? Because Sa'id Musayyib was considered the most knowledgeable, so much so that in his old age, Abdullah bin Umar used to say, I'm old, I have gotten old, and I forget many things. Go ask Sa'id. Can you imagine a Sahabi of Messenger of Allah saying to go ask you? I mean, what rank is this? So he said, Allah knows best, but I believe it is from the days of the Battle of Al-Harra. On the first day, the first Salah passed, it was not established in the Masjid of the Prophet. The second Salah passed, it was not established. The third Salah, fourth, fifth, and on the next day, I said this cannot be. And he was a teen. He was a young man. He said, I pretended to be Majnoon. And I went banging around, yelling. Okay? So the soldiers allowed me through because they said he's just Shab Majnoon. He's a young youth who's insane. Okay? And I went and I called the adhan. And I heard the adhan from the grave of the Prophet. And he said, the soldiers had kept their horses in the mosque of the Prophet. So these are his soldiers. These are Yazid's soldiers. They put their horses in the mosque of the Prophet, and the horses were
living there, stable.
Stable. And what did they do? They poop.
Yeah. Were
right?
these guys not Muslim?
They're Muslims, right? So they are. The horses are pooping in the masjid. So he had to clean it up. So that's where he said, from that, I believe Allah knows best that Allah has blessed me in my life. So that's Sa'id al-Musayyib said that, right? So that's what Yazid did. When he poked the bear, now everyone knows. So if people were ambivalent about the nature of Yazid, what is al-Hussein doing? Does he really need to do this? Can we just live in peace? What did he actually do? What did Yazid actually do? Right? No, he knew something that no one else knew. Right? Or that many people did not know. And that by poking that bear and by confronting the bear, he exposed him. And Sayyidina Ali has a statement that he said, the greatest jihad is to expose what is hidden. So he exposed. Now, there's no question in Hijaz, and the news spread very quickly that he did this. Now, who was enraged at this? The people of Mecca. The people of Mecca were enraged. Now, did this all happen right away? No. The Battle of Al-Harra, the tumult, the anger of the Medinans slowly cooked. So you can't say, okay, it all happened so quickly he wasn't thinking. No, it happened like a year apart. Then another 18 months passed before the tumult in Mecca grew. What did he do? Did he say, hold on a second, now I've got 2 strikes against me. I killed Ahlul Bayt. Besides, Hussein's not the only one. 70 other were killed. Yeah. Then I've done this in Medina. Now, Anas bin Malik, right? Some people talk about going to the ruler. By the way, going to the ruler, you can go to the ruler. But what you do is what the question. Anas bin Malik did not go give him some fuzzy advice. Anas bin Malik was there as an older man at this point. And the head of Al-Hussein was delivered to Yazid. Anas walked in, and Anas, he's older Sahabi, he's untouchable. He's untouchable, also Yazid's not afraid of him, because he has a following. He wasn't that charismatic type of leader that was scary to Yazid. And he saw him playing with the teeth and the mouth of Al-Hussein. And he said, put your stick down. He's using his miswak. Put your stick down, for I saw Rasulullah kissing those lips. Right? So Anas bin Malik is an example of a man. He's in and out the houses of rulers, but with what? With what? Right? He's not taking gold from them. He's going and he's talking to them. So Anas bin Malik would have said something. Other Sahaba would have, other people, I'm sure, in that year and a half, you don't think he heard anything? Of course he heard something. So another 18 months passes, he lays siege to Mecca. I mean, he didn't learn. So the idea that we could give him an excuse, give him a second excuse, give him khalas, it's 3 years. But his rule was 3 years. Sayyidina Hussein came out in the first half of the first year. The Battle of Al-Harra came right around in the middle of his reign. The siege of Mecca at the end of his reign. And at this point, there's so much dua coming against Yazid, right? And also, when you attack the awliya and the sacred places like this, that Allah took his life early. He died. At the end of the siege of Mecca, Yazid died, right? So, who won this battle, right? So, Al-Hussein, it's like he poked a rock, right? And then and when that rock was poked or lifted, all the worms were visible. You know when you do that after the rain and you kick a rock or something, a big rock, or you move a mat and you're like, oh, all these worms. Whoa, we got to clean this out. So he did that. When he suffered the response and sacrificed himself, really, and Medina became inflamed, he went and he did wrong to them and to the city and to the Masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, and to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ. Raising the sword in front of the grave of the Prophet on Muslims and putting your horses there to defecate. And when that happened, Mecca was inflamed. So what Al-Hussein did is he proved to history that this man was illegitimate ruler. So as we said, Musa alayhi salam lived to see the defeat of his enemy, but didn't live to see the success because he'd never made it to the Holy Land, all right, the Promised Land, as we should say. Al-Hussein did not live to see the defeat of his enemy, but he did defeat his enemy. He initiated it, and a domino effect resulted. So the whole theme and the point is the issue of when there is dhulm, there has to be a reaction. There has to be a reaction. Like I go to my in soccer practice, and some of these kids are so rude to the coach, and there are some Muslim kids there from the masjid. They look at me because the coach doesn't react. He just accepts it. They've never seen a creature like this. They've never seen an adult male like this, right? Right? They've never seen a guy get disrespected by, like, his son is on the team and disrespects his dad right in front of everyone, and no reaction. What the heck? And I have to always tell them, there's going to be a reaction. If it was your grandpa, you'd be Salatul Janaz arba'u takbirat. Right? So, so this is the point. You wanted to I'll turn it now to you guys. You know, this is my first point of the episode.
Can I just follow?
Yeah.
So we've established clearly Yazid was wrong. Maybe even a kafir. Allahu alam, right? Just want to bring this up because I don't know if we'll touch on it, and I think it's important because a lot of Muslims, depending on their ethnic background, and I'm including there the English-speaking ummah at this point, they're taking. Remember the comment I said earlier about taking from the correct sources. A lot of people have intermixed sources, and they have interpolated sources, and they have. They're even listening to Sunnis who may have borrowed from illegitimate sources, and one of the horrors that happens is that they start attributing Yazid's crimes, legitimate, real crimes, to people that had nothing to do with it, that were no longer even alive at the time that these were being committed. And it's unacceptable.
Not acceptable.
It's unacceptable because you're compounding, but you feel like you're defending the Ahlul Bayt, but you're insulting the intelligence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the wisdom that he had in choosing the companions that he kept close to him and that he entrusted with the writing down the revelation. This is totally unacceptable. And so for anybody that needs just a brief overview, Muawiyah radiallahu anhu was the legitimate Khalifa at the time. And in his old age, people told him Yazid is no good. And he said, I've seen no good from him. He knows. He was aware. Yazid came to him. He's an old man. He's towards the end of his life. He says, I've repented. I made tawbah. I'm rectifying my life. I know the great responsibility. I'm not quoting this, not direct on paraphrase. I know the great responsibility. I'm good. I'll do well. And shows him those things. What old man whose son was astray, and then the son comes to him in his last days and says, Baba, I've changed. I understand what I should be doing, and I'm on the right road now. It just brings them joy. Yeah. So why would he turn him away? And why would he I would imagine you would think that you turn him away at that point. First of all, you're showing no mercy, and you're saying, I don't care about your repentance. I'm judging you on what you did before.
It's actually a very awkward situation for a dad.
He can't say to him, so what? You sinned before, and so you can't be trusted. I don't care that now you're on the right road. No, he's overjoyed by it. So, of course, he accepted it. And this is why he supported his taking over the rule.
I want to say something else, too. Sayyidina Muawiyah did not surprise anyone when he passed it on to his son.
No.
He announced in his life, with the presence of companions still alive, I am the first, I am making it a monarchy. He announced it. Why? Because he felt that this is what's needed, right? He's telling you honestly. He's not telling you as boasting for sins, right? He's not boasting for his sinfulness, right? He's saying, I am informing you all, this is a monarchy. I'm the first king of the Arabs, okay? Meaning of the Muslims. Because when Sayyidina Umar went to Syria to inspect him,
or of the Arabs, because the Umayyads, let's be honest.
Yeah, because the Umayyads cared so much about the Arabness, which some people say the only benefit or the wisdom of that is just that they really spread the Arabic language, right? In any event, well, who knows, maybe others would have too, but who knows. But Sayyidina Umar, when he went in, he saw guards, right? He saw hujub. Hujub means like, if you want to pass this gate, you need to talk to so-and-so. If you need to pass this door, you need to talk to so-and-so. If you want to talk to Muawiyah, you need to talk to so-and-so first, then so-and-so, then so-and-so, then so-and-so.
Arabic lessons, same root as hijab.
Yeah, same word as hijab. Barriers. Finally, Sayyidina Umar saw this. He said, do you think this is is it Persian? Are we Persians? Right? He said, Afarisiyatun here? Right? Is this Persian? Right? He said, oh, Amir al-Mu'mineen, there are so many enemies in this land. And there's so much plotting, right? There's so much plotting that this is necessary. Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab, on his way back to Medina, he confided in Abdurrahman ibn Auf. And he said, I'm replacing him. I don't like it. Right? And he was assassinated a short while later. Right? So he never replaced him. But that was his approach. So Muawiyah, he didn't hide anything. Umar saw it. He was not sneaking, right? Now, when people then say, well, Siffin, what was that? And they say how he opposed Ali, and he offended Sayyidina Ali, and he did many things. Well, in the books of Islamic law, you can find these discussions in the expanded works, contemporary works usually, in the chapter of had crimes, in the subsection of hudud. Rebellion, right? Rebellion. Rebellion, okay, they divide it into three categories. One, there's legitimate rebellion. That's at Hussein's. The second is rebellion by opinion. That is incorrect. Ijtihadi opinion, that's incorrect. In that case, the rebel can be killed, but he's not sinful. He's wrong, but not sinful. Okay? And he attributed that to Sayyidina Muawiyah. That he viewed that there cannot be any action at all until the killers of Uthman are prosecuted. Okay? That was his opinion. And he felt that you can't be legitimate Khalifa with those people seeking refuge in your camp. Because the Khawarij, the people who killed Sayyidina Uthman, were seeking refuge in Ali's camp. And he knew that, right? But they had such huge tribes behind them that Sayyidina Ali said, once I prosecute them, it's going to be a civil war. These tribes are going to rise up. If there's a civil war, right, they're going to exhaust my men, my troops, and we have the Persians breathing down our neck to the right, and we have the Byzantines breathing down our neck to the left, right? And we just finished Egypt, okay? So I can't afford to lose that many men. Okay? So you notice Sayyidina Ali's using his intellect. He's not saying, do the right thing and rely upon Allah and kill us all, right? No, he's not doing that. He's using his brain.
And the actual people who killed Uthman were Egyptian.
They're Egyptians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like
Exactly.
you have the Khawarij and the Egyptians. You're gonna have to.
Correct.
You're gonna have to go to Egypt to draw those people in. You have the Khawarij.
Exactly. So that means you're going to have to fight a two-front war.
Yeah.
You're going to have problems with Egypt in Egypt, and you're going to have problems. Now, I want to say something too, and this is not to say anything. Of course, we can't say anything bad about the Sahaba.
No.
It said Umar ibn Khattab did not want to conquer Egypt. He changed his mind, and he told Amr ibn As, begged him, give me Egypt. He said, we have to have a shura. They called the Sahaba. They said, we're stretched too thin, don't do it. Then others said, we have the momentum, do it now before we never do it. He said, now look at how Umar, when he was between a decision, what he said. He said, go, but if I change my mind before you arrive, you turn back. If I change my mind after you arrive, right, then do it. Okay? So Sayyidina Umar took action. He didn't suspend the matter. He took action, but left it open-ended for a change.
and gave himself a deadline.
And gave himself a deadline. Right? Brilliant. Okay? Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab changed his mind. He writes a letter. He sends it to Muawiyah. Once you receive my letter, if you are...
Muawiyah?
to Amr ibn As. He sends him a letter. He says, if you are not in Egyptian soil, turn back. If you are on Egyptian soil, proceed. The letter gets to him, to Amr ibn As, a couple days before. And he's rushing. Amr ibn As was rushing, right? Then the letter comes to him. And he comes with a young man. He says Amr sent a healthy young man, right? Who can ride days and nights to get to him. He rode, he get to him, and he said, I have a letter. Before he was able to utter the words from Amir al-Mu'mineen, he said, shut your mouth and go to the back. So that if he said that, did you receive a letter from Amir al-Mu'mineen before you got to Egypt? He could say no, because he didn't hear those words.
Yeah.
They arrive. He gets to Egypt. Right, entered the Egyptian soil, stops the troops, the camps. He says to the people, where are we? He said, we're now in Egypt. He said, bring that young man. Bring the letter. He opens the letter. Okay. He says, from Amir he reads it out loud to the people. From Amir al-Mu'mineen, from Umar ibn Khattab to Amr ibn As, if you are not in Egyptian soil, turn back. If you are in Egyptian soil, proceed. He said, are you all my witnesses? They said, yes, we're your witnesses. They didn't see that he shut that boy up and sent him back, right? So, if you notice, there was a little bit of trickery, okay, in the taking of Egypt.
He's the progenitor of attorneys.
Yeah. He then, this is why all the Egyptians, they name Amr. I was talking to my daughter the other day. Right?
Wow.
Right?
Is that true?
Oh, yeah. Have you seen a Daisy called Amr? Right? So I was talking with my daughter the other day.
We know one.
Who?
Abdul Ghani.
Amr. That's Amr, right?
Amr.
Yeah.
Right.
So she said, what do you want to name your kid? She said, I'll name him Muhammad first, and then I'll think. But he said, if I really want to go Egyptian, I'll just name him Amr. But there is some trickiness here. And what's the result? Years later, where does the fitna begin? Egypt. Okay, where does it begin there? In any event, we're not going to say that it's Amr ibn As's fault.
No,
I'm just
not.
saying that the beginning of something and the end of something, you can sort of see that there's a parallel, right? The issue comes from Egypt, and it came from Iraqis. The Khawarij were from Egypt and from Iraq. Right. When Sayyidina, and of course, when we say they're Egypt and Iraq, they're not Egyptians. They're Arabs that live there.
Yeah.
They're Copts, right?
No, but the fitna causers were Arabs, who moved there, right? So, one of the things that Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib said to argue against them, he said, you both are plotting on the Ummah, or on the Khalifa, on Uthman. They said, no, wallahi, we're not plotting. He said, then how did you guys arrive at the same time? The Egyptians and the Iraqis, right? So they're connected to tribes in Arabia.
And so the
Right.
Kufans were also Arabs, not Persians.
The Kufans are all Arabs. So at this point, the administration is by the Arabs, right? And they're sending people out there, right? It hasn't mixed yet. There hasn't been time for intermarriages. So then at that point, Sayyidina Ali's concern is, and I haven't lost train, I know we're getting back to the point. Sayyidina Ali realizes they're going to have a problem in Egypt. I'm going to have an uprising in Iraq. I'm going to have an uprising from the tribes if I prosecute these many, many, many men who plotted again on this killing, right? And then where do you draw the line? Is it the killer, right? The one who stabbed? Is it the ones who entered the home? Or is it all of them who caused the problem? It's a gray area, right? Who do I kill? Who do I punish, right? So Sayyidina Ali said, this requires some thought, and I cannot afford a civil war right now, right? So he delays the prosecution. Sayyidina Muawiyah said, if you spend another night, if you spend one night with them in your camp, right, you're not legitimate. And of course, Sayyidina Ali is correct. We know that Sayyidina Ali is correct for other reasons. First, he's Wali al-Amr. Number two, the Prophet ﷺ said, Ammar taqtuluhu al-fi'atu al-baghiyah. Right? Ammar ibn Yasir will be killed by the rebellious army. Okay? So if the one army is rebellious, then what is the original one? The other one? The rightful, the truthful one, right? So who killed Ammar ibn Yasir? Ammar ibn Yasir was killed in the Battle of Siffin by the Syrians. Muawiyah's people. So the Khawarij then, these troops, in their qualms with Sayyidina Uthman over administrative and political matters, the go-between was Ali. Why? Because Ali always sympathized with the poor. And they were the poor, right? They felt oppressed. Ali bin Abi Talib was the outsider in the administration of Sayyidina Uthman because he's Bani Hashim, they're Bani Umayyah, they're oil and water, right? So he was on the outside. So he was the senior Sahaba that they went to, and he said, yes, I see that the governors of the Umayyads have mistreated you. And he was the go-between. And he has some very stern talks to Sayyidina Uthman, right? He gave Sayyidina Uthman some stern talks. And we don't deny that Sahaba had conflicts, right? They never doubted each other's religion. That's the difference. Right. Some people said, oh, the Sahaba cursed each other. Maybe not over their deen. He never said you're an innovator. He never said you're not on the right path, etc. That's a big difference because it's a big Shia argument that Sahaba cursed one another. Why can't we curse them, right? They never cursed one another over their religion, right? They never did that over their religion, over ijtihadi matters, okay? So when they viewed that Sayyidina Ali is our man and they tried to use him, now once he came into power, they knew they're in trouble. They knew he's going to prosecute them, right? And he said it. He said, but after I consolidate, okay? So what did they do? Well, you know, when you say, like, your enemy, you know, stay close to your friends, but closer to your enemy. What's the saying?
Yeah.
Right?
Keep your friends closer, yes. Your enemies closer.
Yes. So what did they do? They latched onto him. Try to stall him by trying to please him, yet at the same time, delay the consolidation as much as possible so he forgets. And this took them they did this over a span of 4.5 years. And in that 4.5 years, because they were insincere from the get-go, they developed a false religion, which is Khawarijism, which all they care about is the outward image of religiosity. They want Ali to see they're religious, right? That maybe he changed their mind. But at the same time, their backup plan is keeps fomenting fitna for him, foment the fitna so that he never consolidates and never gets to us.
In that sense, there's nothing new under the sun. They're very much like the original munafiqs.
Yeah. Very much like
from the early period.
Yeah. Right. So they came in, and they started off as these people angry about oppression, right? They start off like that. Then, for that reason, to save their own hides, they made themselves look religious. They stuck to Ali to go to extremes, and because of their lack of sincerity, they were only really focused on the outward, and they had no religious sense. They were just literalists, basically. So that was how Khawarij are formed.
Until a point where a group of them rebelled.
And once they saw that he's too weak, then they just rebelled. Yeah. So they instigated the Battle of the Camel. They instigated it, right? They rushed and killed the side of Talha and Zubair and Sayyidah Aisha without permission, right? Claiming zeal for Ali. Because it was an insincere zeal. They're only trying to love him so that he can, he can not prosecute them, right? And then they're at the same time fomenting fitna in the ummah, right? Fomenting fitna for him, so that he doesn't have time to consolidate. So then he kills members. They kill members from the Battle of the Camel, from that side. When they woke up, they're like, what is this? You're killing our people. We didn't do anything to you, right? We never raised a sword against you. Because Talha and Zubair and Sayyid Aisha, they never raised a sword. They went with their people. They tried to block him from leaving, right? They didn't raise a sword. Then some of the Khawarij killed some of their people in the darkness of the night. They woke up and said, what is this? Right? So some of their people rushed and killed some of Sayyidina Ali's people. Then battle started. Once that was passed, okay, now we got to consolidate from the killing of Uthman. We had the Battle of the Camel, so let's cool it down. Okay, now he has another problem, Sayyidina Muawiyah. Okay, let's cool this down first before I get to deal with you people, right? And that took a long time and sucked the energy out. You know how many hundreds of thousands of people fought in that battle of Siffin? Battle of Siffin was truly a civil war. And it was in the tens of thousands of deaths on both sides. To the point that Sayyidina Ali said, even though Baghi is rebellion, is punishable by death. It should all be killed, right? However, Sayyidina Ali saw, if I do this, we lose Syria, right? What's more important? To keep Islam in Syria, right? Or to fight these rebels? To lose the whole land? So Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib, he's using a fiqhi judgment call here, right? Mm-hmm. And he's saying, no. If they want to stop, I'll agree to stop. Okay? I'll agree to stop because, yes, they're rebelling against me, but at the same time, they're the only people keeping Islam there. The Byzantines are breathing down their neck. So Sayyidina Ali, this is the maturity of Sayyidina Ali and his vision of Islam for the Ummah over his own self and his own power and his own personal dignity. So once they saw, though, now 2 years passed, a year and a half passed, it was time now to go meet Muawiyah again. Mm-hmm. And he gathered his troops. And the people were like, oh, we don't want to go. Khalas, we're tired. We don't want to go. They were exhausted. They were no good, right?
Yeah. Well, they didn't have any zeal for it either because why would you?
Yeah.
I mean, you obey your leader, but it's not something where you feel like this is we should go and raise arms because
exactly
is, right? They're your people at the end of the day.
Once that was put on display, the Kharijites realized we actually don't need him anymore, right? We don't need Ali anymore. So they went so extreme in both those matters, the fomenting of fitna for him and trying to show that they're his supporters. They went, like the Prophet said, through the target. The arrow that goes through the target. Like if you shoot a deer from too close, your arrow goes through the target. Yeah. And you don't want that. You want the arrow to go in the target. So they said, we actually don't need him anymore.
He's kafir anyway.
Yeah. So let's create a thing where we can stay away from him, right? And they created a religious argument that he is not a Muslim, right? Right. And that he's illegitimate, right? So they went out against him. And Ibn Abbas at that time, because they created, this is the first time that that a religious argument was created to support a political purpose, right? If you notice, Sayyida Aisha and Talha and Zubair, they're like, no, don't leave. Right. Prosecute, don't leave. That's worldly, right? That's a fiqhi matter, right? Likewise, Muawiyah, that was a worldly matter. Prosecute it. They created a religious, so they were the first sect in Islam. And Sayyidina Ibn Abbas, that's where the phrase Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah comes from at that hour, at that time. And Ibn Abbas was sent to debate them. There were 24,000, and he came back with 16,000. Wow. He argued with them, debated them, and came back with 16,000. Right? So their numbers were reduced to 8. So the battle that ensued, he routed them, and then they fled. Then the people said, should we chase them? He said, no, leave them. Leave them in their mosques. As long as they don't raise a sword against us, leave them in their mosques. Right? Now, even though Prophet ﷺ has a hadith that says, the Khawarij, and he described the Khawarij, and he said, if they are alive, what did he say?
Kill them.
I will kill them all.
Right.
Who narrates the hadith? Ali bin Abi Talib, right? He's the narrator of certain hadiths related to the Khawarij, right? However, he's the one who faces them, and he doesn't do it. Why? Because he's a faqih, right? He's using fiqh. It means consider the circumstances, right? He considers the circumstances. So, yes, that's the ruling. But if that ruling will lead to a greater harm, then we won't apply it. So the Khilaf of Sayyidina Ali is totally a lesson, right, in how there are so many rules of the Sharia that he sees, yes, that's the technical rule. Kill all the rebels. You're going to lose Syria, right? So that he didn't apply them. Yeah.
So if I can, just to try to encapsulate this, this is super important for people alive today who are looking at the world, the conflicts in the Muslim lands, and trying to pick a side and say, oh, the correct thing is this, without any gray area, or the correct thing is the opposite of it, and there's no gray area, and anybody in the middle is just, whatever, right? First, you can't take any of those positions, and it's all enveloped in this, right? The whole thing, this period of the Muslim history encompasses all of it. So you can't take the position that you never rebel. Sometimes Yazid, legitimate rebellion against him. So you can't take that position. But you also can't take the position that you should always rebel.
Yeah.
Or you should always fight the illegitimate rule. Or you should always just go all out and kill. Because in other instances, it was legitimate. It wasn't legitimate to do that. Yeah. Even though it would have been permissible to go out and prosecute and murder and execute all of them. Yeah. Right? You can't be on either side of this. You have to, everything is contextual. Everything is specific to the case. You have to use wisdom. And the last thing about this is you always have to have an amir for your movement.
You have to.
Like, this is not, we all kind of agree, and we got guns.
That's what the Khawarij movement was.
Yeah.
No leader.
Yeah, no leader. No leader. The Khawarij were no leader. They were just, their name describes them. They're just rebel.
Yeah.
It's just
that's
rebel.
What they did.
They're just rebels, son.
Yeah.
Right? And like there's nothing about it that's organized. It's organized by its disorganization, right? Like that's the hallmark of it.
Because if they want chaos, you want it to be uncontrolled, and you want to be able to throw a spark and not no one responsible for it. What happens, right?
Exactly.
So, Arab Spring was very much like that. Okay, I'm not saying that they didn't have some cause, but it was an unorganized thing, and one spark is thrown, and who is let's say the ruling class? Who are they going to fight back? Right. Like, you guys didn't contain yourselves into a box that I can fight back and not harm other civilians. So he's just going to have to go after everyone, right? So that's a problem with this uncontained style of rebellion. Now, in any event, the point about this, another point is that if you think of that, the Khawarij in Medina, Sayyidina Uthman, he used to teach fiqh. He used to teach the law, right? And this is known about him, that he used to teach fiqh. Even in his khilafah, he taught the people the law. He knows the law about rebels. But again, he's like a mujtahid imam who saw that to quell rebellion and shed their blood and kill them all, which he would have total permission to do, he said this would be bad because it's in the city of the Prophet only like 25 years after his death, right? So what is 2 years of Sayyidina Umar? 2 years of 10 of Umar, that's 12. His was 13, so that's what? 25, right? So we're not even 30 years out, and we're going to have a war in the city of the Prophet? I don't want to face the Prophet ﷺ having killed Muslims in his city. So Sayyidina Uthman, so look at how many actual black and white rulings there are in the Sharia that these mujtahid sahabis, and I'm saying mujtahid not like they're trying, I'm saying they are getting the right answer. That's the right answer. What they did was the right answer because the Prophet ﷺ said follow them. And the Prophet would not say follow someone incorrect. He said in the hadith, follow my sunnah and the sunnah of the rightly guided khalifas. So there, when I say ijtihad, it means that it's just not, it's not written in stone in the Quran and the hadith, right? It's their opinion, but their opinion is correct. So he doesn't kill them, even though the law says kill rebels. Sayyidina Ali, the law says kill rebels, didn't kill them, right? At a certain point. So there's the ijtihad always involved as circumstances and considering other things. Yeah.
And one of the most important things we got to remember, and it seems like people don't know these things from the seerah anymore, when popular speakers talk and they're just making these statements and as if these stories don't even exist, right? Sometimes when the Sahabis did the right thing, in the worldly context, it meant total failure, right? I mean, the Khalifa... Temporary failure in the sense that, look, after Imam Ali, the Khalifa's gone, right? In the sense of the Khalifa Rashidun.
Yeah.
And then we're playing this, the real Khalifa, please stand up game, right? For, 1,000 years after that. So you might say, okay, Uthman radiallahu anh should have been brutal and just, killed spilled all their blood in the city of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Or Ali should have been, just kill, behead Muawiyah radiallahu anh, everybody else, right? But in those moments, that wasn't the moral thing to do, right? And they did the right thing, but it might have not translated into a political or economic victory. And the thing is, that's not how we judge, though.
Yeah.
We judge using the moral laws. So when you say things like, oh, these people rebelled, and they got humiliated or they lost,
Yeah.
right? Well, that doesn't mean anything. The thing is, were they legitimate? Were they doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Were they on the right side of history? So, I mean, most people forget this for some reason.
You guys playing Monday morning quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm.
Armchair. You know this phrase,
Yeah.
Monday morning. Maybe
Yeah.
some people don't know this.
Yeah.
It means basically you come in Monday morning and you say, well, he should have passed it to the wide receiver on the left, or he should have run the ball, right? He should have punted, right? Yeah, but you're just watching it and you're nothing. You're going to play Monday morning quarterback for 1,400 years ago, right? The event that
that's
happened.
the problem, right?
I mean, it's absurd. All we have is to transmit the narrations, right? And we have revelation telling us certain things. Certain things like that, the khulafa are going to be correct, number one.
Right.
Number two, that certain sahaba, you don't touch them in your speech. All the sahaba, I should say.
Yeah.
The only class of people that are untouchable in your speech, unless you're teaching the event that happened, right? Right, like teaching the event of what Amr ibn
Yeah.
As did.
Yeah.
That's out of teaching, but it's not to extend your tongue on anyone and to judge their moral character. Okay, the Quran and the Prophet ﷺ put a limit on the Sahaba. You can talk about what they did for educational purposes only, but you cannot make a moral judgment on them. That's what we have, and the narrations. You can't put yourself in their shoes. You don't even know what it's like to live without electricity.
Right.
Forget living in that time period, right?
And by the way, one other thing that's worth saying, in case it's not been said clearly enough, is that the person who was the legitimate ruler had not an opinion that these people should be fought and punished, but even a command, a ruling from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These people, if they appear, fight them, kill them
Mhm.
all. I would kill them all, right?
Mhm.
And still analyzed the situation
Yes.
and said, let me make sure that this is the best thing, and if
Yeah.
it isn't, I won't do it. To then say in a modern context that, well, listen, it's permissible to rebel against this guy, or it's permissible to fight these people, it's permissible to try to kill them all. We don't have to worry about the consequences, because win or lose, we're on the side of the right.
Yeah.
Ali radiallahu anh didn't make that choice. He
Yeah.
didn't say, well, I have the hadith,
True.
and I know it because I narrate it. It was the chain is me.
Yeah.
Right? This is the goldenest of
Yeah.
chains. I know it's true.
Yeah.
It's 100% sahih, and
Yeah.
I know exactly what the words were, and I'm not applying it, because the greater wisdom is to not cause bloodshed and fitna and chaos in
Yeah.
the land, and I have every right to do it.
Yeah, but at the same time, look at Uthman, radiallahu anh, right? He could have. Maybe you could argue that the wisest thing to do would have been to kill those rebels and rule for another 20, 30 years, right? Maybe you could have said that, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is that those four Khulafa Rashidun, they're the awliya of the Sahaba, awliya of awliya, because they've done the moral thing.
Let me
Right?
tell you, I have a feeling.
Not because they had this political acumen,
Yeah.
or so on and so forth. Like, for example, I don't believe that, Muawiyah had to take over for the Muslim empire to become a modern empire. There's no doubt about that. To control half the world, you couldn't do that from Medina. There's just no way, right? Sometimes piety gets in the world of worldly ambition, right? Quote unquote, I would say. Sometimes when you're so concerned about, doing the right thing and
What level of piety would you attribute?
Alex?
Listen, in all seriousness,
Let me broadcast this. Alex has taken off his glasses. His
So what-
watch is coming off. His sleeves are rolling up.
Muawiyah's level of righteousness is beyond, and I'm saying I love you.
No,
I love
not
you
about
for saying
Muawiyah.
that.
I take it back. Not about Muawiyah.
His level of
Yeah.
righteousness is above any human being alive today.
Of course.
The peer of your peer and his great grandfather's peer are all dust
Right.
compared to Muawiyah radiallahu anhu.
Of course.
And that's for every Sahaba.
Right.
So we don't go, oh, well, we needed somebody a little less righteous.
No. What I mean to say, right? What I mean to say is that taking the capital. So when Muawiyah took over Syria, right? You saw what he did there. He set up his government like the Byzantines,
Yeah.
right, or the Persians. So whereas Umar radiallahu anh didn't really like that because it went against like his sense of sort of independence,
Yeah.
group cooperation, and the way that the Prophet ﷺ did things, right?
yeah.
Whereas Muawiyah radiallahu anh was adapting to the time, right?
See,
So
not
the
only-
thing is, and the thing is, you'll see in Islamic circumstances, whenever the Muslims go into a new place, they take on the political structures of their time. So that's what I mean by they weren't trying to like get to this ideal caliphate, right? What they were trying to do, they go into Persia, they rule like the Persians, right? And if they didn't do that, they wouldn't rule half the world. It's just not possible. Yeah. So.
The other thing to note is that the Umayyads as a group were the ruling classes, right? These are people that have long history of being leaders, of being emirs of the people. They come from wealth, they come from influence and power. Umar radiallahu anh is 100% a polymath and a genius at statecraft. But also he was from a different background. He came from an eloquent background, hence the name of his family name, or the name of his family is known, Al-Khattab, right? Because they were very good, eloquent speakers. He was also highly educated. By the way, a lot of people don't know, Umar radiallahu anh was highly educated.
Yeah.
He not only knew how to read and write, he also knew math, right? So, which was uncommon among those people. But he came from a rough background.
Yeah.
He grew up rough. His father was a very tough man. So it's a different. It's like the Umayyads are the aristocrats.
Yeah.
And Umar radiallahu anh is an eloquent, educated genius, but kind of from a tough background.
Yeah.
So he goes, what is all these guards?
Yeah.
Pull your sword out.
Sayyidina Muawiyah's mother used to always say, which is Hind,
She was tough.
right? Hind,
Radiallahu anha.
she used to say, you will be the king of the Arabs. She's planted it in him.
She wasn't
right?
kidding.
She wasn't kidding. And he said, I'm the first king of the Arabs. Imam al-Haddad said that when a scribe of the Prophet, even though he says he's the king, to us he's the 6th Khalifa. Of course, Sayyidina al-Hassan ruled for 6 months. And then Sayyidina Muawiyah. So, now, I wanted to turn now to something else, because why are we talking about this? Ashura, to the issue of oppression and the issue of never giving injustice a hard time. Now, an easy pass, an easy time. Why am I saying this? Our religion, Allah Ta'ala has brought, number one, knowledge, revealed knowledge. Number two, He brought us a spirituality, a nearness to Him. And all this has to be protected. Point is that this has to be protected. The nur that the Prophet gives, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, brought by the Quran and through the Quran and through his Sunnah, it really gives us a great life, right? Now, this great life needs to be protected.
Of course.
And what is it that's going to ruin this life, right? And I always it's very important to remind people of the ni'mah that they're in. When I go on field, I said, look kids, listen to this. And some of the youth are there for the youth. Look at this. Look at the sky's clear. The grass is beautiful, right? The roads are clean, right? How does Allah has given us a good life, right? We have your family, you got grandparents. We don't get drunk, right? We don't have problems, getting married. Alhamdulillah, we get married. We go to every year the shabab are getting married. Alhamdulillah, right? So, and the little kids see this. So this is an amazing thing, right? And they get married, and they have their own kids, and they repeat the cycle, and their grandparents are happy now. All of this happiness, we have jobs, it's from the Sharia, right? It's from acting rightly. So justice is the protector of a good life. We have a nice, happy, good life, right? And most Westerners, they have this, right? Alhamdulillah, Western Muslim, you have meaning in your life, you have purpose. If you do some dhikr, you have some spirituality too, right? Overall, we have great blessing. What's going to ruin it? Injustice. Any injustice, Muslim or Kafir, right? So we have to frame justice is that justice is not the goal. Justice is the protector of the prize.
Right.
So when we talk about oppression, we don't talk about it like from the Marxist standpoint or the political standpoint that when we say the word the oppressor, it's the tyrants and the despots and all. When are you going to see a tyrant in your life? Think about it. Let's be practical, right? This is talk. Okay,
there's a golf course in Bedminster.
I mean, that's it's
Bro,
like what you were saying earlier about the Monday morning quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just about like 1400 years ago people are doing the Monday morning quarterback. People do the Monday morning quarterback of events that are happening in the world now.
Yeah.
I mean, these are real life events that happen to real life people.
When
you read it in a textbook or read it on a tweet, it's very different, right?
I want to be on the record. I'm sorry that, and I have proof because of electronic devices that on Friday night, not Monday morning, on Friday night I was like, don't do it, don't play that game.
On what?
on Friday night, not Monday morning.
Yeah.
Oh.
I've not changed my position on that.
Yeah.
I wasn't opposed to people and I didn't criticize them, but I did say that it's not the right thing.
Which is
it's not
what?
going to work out well.
What is that?
Any of what happened since Tunisia.
Oh, yeah.
The Tunisians had it relatively easy.
Yeah.
Because that guy was not strong.
Arab Spring you're talking about.
Yeah. Ben Ali was not strong.
Yeah.
He wasn't Assad. He wasn't Mubarak. He wasn't definitely Sisi. He wasn't as strong as these guys. And the military kind of was like, yeah,
He's got to go. Yeah.
That guy can go.
Yeah.
He's not the one.
Also, it's not an Israeli buffer. It's not a buffer for Israel.
Yeah,
Tunisia.
it's
It can
fine.
come and go.
It's fine. The French are out of that.
Tunisia can come and go. No one's going to be bothered.
The
right?
last time the French intervened in any of this was to the bombing of Libya.
Yeah.
And because they were trying to get that contract for fighter jets with UAE, which they did.
Yeah. I mean, if
Since
anyone
when has France been in a war recently?
Yeah,
But they showed off their airplanes though.
if anyone wants to know the basic summary, lesson 101 of Middle East politics. I don't know why we still call it Middle East. It's a British term relative to them.
The Near East?
Darul Islam.
It's the center of the world.
Yeah, we should call it the center zone since Mecca is our center zone.
Middle Earth.
Middle Earth. but the summary is in Europe, they need the despots there to create a buffer for Israel. That's how simple it is, right?
Yeah, I mean,
That's how simple. But we were saying that when is the last time when are you ever in your life gonna really stand up against oppression? Okay, yes, it's a very important principle to have. I'm against. Yes, he sees he's a killer. He killed all those people in Rabi'a. Okay, all these people are killers. That's the principle. You touch it upon it, okay, once or twice in your life, and that's it. That's our position. Period. Right? To harp on it every single day from 3,000 miles away is not showing courage. Oppression in Sharia is every disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in aqidah, in fiqh, in muamalat, in everything. Okay. And the first responsibility in this is your own self. The second responsibility is your family. If you have dependents they have to listen to you. Your third responsibility now is your small your friends and your community.
sounds like an ayah of Quran. It is.
It is, right? قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارًا, right? Protect yourself. So if we want to be these courageous people against oppression, to write an article about a guy who's never going to see it, who's 5,000 miles away, who doesn't speak your language, okay, it's nice. It's not a display of courage. It's not a display of great iman. What really Allah is going to ask you about, yes, that position is important. I agree with that. I'm for that. I'm against them all. We all are. But what Allah will truly ask you about is your dependence. Okay, your community. You saw the haram happening in your community. What's the basic haram? Okay, the community stopped eating halal meat. And I'm telling you, the type of, like you said, SOAS type, right? Those.
So ask the universe.
Yeah, School of Oriental and African Studies. Those types. These types of people on Twitter, right? A lot of them. So. What they're looking at, I lost my train of thought because Alex was showing me a thing here.
So the type of SOAS people.
Yeah. So I was saying.
I'm sorry. I was showing it to you because of that comment, which is.
Yeah.
Twitter comments are of no consequences in real life,
There's no
except for the sins of the ton that you commit.
True.
Other than that, there's no points, there's no bonuses. You're not unlocking new levels by being super cool on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's not getting you anything.
And these views that oppression is this almost sounds like it's almost a type of Marxist approach, which being against oppression is not Marxist, right? But to view it as it's us versus the ruler,
Marxism
right?
might be the opposite.
It's the ruler. Okay, we get that. That's our position. But oppression in Sharia can be much closer to home. It can be something much smaller, right? Like backbiting, like you see people not. Observing their deen properly, like a false belief that's going, a heretical belief that's spreading in your friend group, right? All this is dhulm too. It's all oppression too. But that's something more likely that Allah will ask you about because you could have done something about it. Yeah.
I mean, that's my main problem, and that's actually why I've been silent the half of this episode.
Yeah.
It's because in real life, right, most of the people that are clamoring on about this, whether it's on Twitter or writing articles, I mean, in real life these things don't have consequence to the degree that people imagine them to have, right?
I agree.
It's the real life effort that happens in your local communities, in your flock, so to speak, that actually matters, right? I mean, I think it's not just these Muslim topics. I think any topic, most people online are just, I just imagine these people, sitting on their couches eating Cheetos, typing out these messages on Twitter.
No.
As if
No. Their mom's couch.
Yeah, man. Like
Their dad's couch.
I
They
bet you
can't afford rent.
Yeah,
the average age
look,
is probably under 30 years old. Average.
Yeah.
I don't have time to read.
No
like
offense,
somebody, look, these guys sent me a bunch of articles on, I've actually not followed up on the Dr. Sherman Jackson thing, CVE thing, because I don't have time. I have a job. I have a family.
Listen,
a
great measure of things, in one sense, of the relevance or importance, real world importance of things is what are the 45 and 46-year-old people doing? Because at that age, usually, you got a lot of responsibilities. You got a lot of time, right? I mean, you don't have a lot of time. You got a lot of responsibilities. So those types of people care more about, what's going on in the local masjid? What are we doing to make sure the kids learning Arabic? Make sure the next generation is learning Quran, right? So you'll find the sectors of the age sector tells you a lot about the realm. But on the other hand, there is another flip side to this. That as you grow older and you have more responsibility, you become too practical and you lose idealism. You can never lose your idealism. And idealism usually is the place of youth. And if you lose it, it's still a shame that, okay, life came and I'm so busy and all that matters is the prices of gas. You don't want to become that person. You become like the insurance company. Have you become your parents lately? You seen that
look, don't get me wrong. I think it's extremely important for certain people in certain positions of actual influence to be involved in these things, and I think they should have advisors and et cetera, et cetera. However, I think the common lay folk. Okay, look, let me give you a most very recent example. This stuff with Ali Al-Arian, right? I had not read any of this stuff that you guys started sending around for the last 3 weeks. I read it yesterday, and I was like, oh, so this was the big deal. Okay, I moved on. Okay, everybody else has already moved on.
By the way, you know what that was? That was a young upstart challenging some older people in the community, and it's the type of thing that 200 years ago somebody would have pulled out a gauntlet, a glove, smacked somebody and said, "I want satisfaction," and they would have met at dawn. Right? Like it's like one person insulting another, and we don't. I know whose side I take, but it doesn't matter whose side. Who the hell am I?
Yeah.
Like honestly, what does it matter whose side I take?
Someone asked me.
Neither one of them knows me or cares.
Someone asked me, I want to know your opinion. Yes or no? Was Yazid legitimate? I said, why does it matter? Right? What I think.
That's a litmus test.
Right? It's a litmus test.
That person just deserves. You know what you should answer them?
Yeah.
I don't even know if you're legitimate.
No.
Go ask your.
It's a total litmus test. I mean, thinking, okay, so if I answered it correct, I don't know you, you don't know me, right? What difference is it? It's so irrelevant.
I'll
it's
give you the best.
unbelievable.
I'm sorry, Nas. I'll give you the best example. I used to have a old car a long time ago when I first got married. It had a dent on the door because somebody sideswiped me or whatever, right? And the car worked. The window went down. It was a dent.
Yeah.
It was an older car. I never fixed it. And my wife, when we first got married, she was like, "Why don't you fix that? It's only a couple $100. Take somewhere, they'll buff it out, whatever." And I said, "For what? It's cosmetic."
Yeah.
Like the only people, 99% of the people that see that dent are people who see me driving down the street.
Yeah.
And I don't care what they think. And then the people who see me with that dent and know me know that I don't care what they think about it. It's my car, and I see the car from the inside. What do I care?
I actually have a dent on the side of my door.
Yeah, and who cares?
Yeah,
like it's
I
not
don't care.
right. And this is who the Muslim Twitter or the Muslim social media intelligentsia or like thereof. We're the dent.
Yeah.
And the people who are actually doing effective things in their communities or on the broader scale, like Dr. Jackson, they don't care. They're not counting the retweets and likes on comments about articles about them.
You want to hear something? You want to hear something? I never really talk about these things, but this was actually pretty funny. When I had said that, listen, an evolution, you cannot have parents for Adam. You cannot believe that.
Right.
And you cannot believe that he came out of something else.
Right.
Like whatever you believe. So either he was created.
Yeah.
And he was of clay at some point, hardened clay. It comes 3 times in the Quran, right? So he was created directly by Allah Ta'ala using mud and water, right? And Allah fashioned him in a way who knows, and what difference does it make to you? He was fashioned, okay? You don't even know how, you don't know a lot of things. How the phone that you were used was fashioned. Difference does it make to you? Okay, he was fashioned by Allah. That's all you need to know. So, and he did not have any one preceding him as a parent, and he did not grow out of something. Okay, that's all you need to know. So that's clear in the Quran. Now, that night people kept sending me messages. Oh, they are going on about you so badly. They're making fun of you, right? They're saying you're limiting thought, right? It's not me, it's the Quran, right? Okay. You're limiting thought. You're this and that. I'm telling you, that night I slept. I was like, you gotta be kidding me, right? So I never speak about these things, but I had a dream that night. Okay. So in that dream that night, I dreamt that there was a lake and there was some defecation, right, next to the lake. And I'm removing the defecation, right? And I'm removing it. And that there was a Muslim school some far back behind me with elementary kids. And the elementary kids are looking out the window and seeing me like removing poop.
Like shoveling it away.
Yeah. And they're laughing. Ah, he's removing poop. Right? Laughing at me.
I get the symbolism.
They're laughing at me. And I'm like, what can I do? Let me just make them laugh even more, right? Okay. So, but when I woke up, I was like, sort of like confirmed what I was feeling, is that you got kids. They'll grow up. They'll grow up and they'll realize that what they were saying was wrong, right? And I'm not saying kids to belittle them. I'm saying we all went through phases. Yeah. I'm telling you, no one has a list of regrets greater than me, right? Because I always try to learn and develop, which means that you're going to regret something in the past, right? Yeah. So, and I've already said, and I'll always say it, I regret that I have some bad blood with other Muslims. I wish I didn't, right? But sometimes we had some clashes. But it's not something I'm happy about. I don't mind clashing with munafiqeen, traitors, heretics, enemies of Islam. I'm happy about that, right? Ahl Bid'ah, I want that, right? But I don't want to be in a bad blood with anyone who is upon, what we know is normal, Sunni normative. I guess that's the phrase, right? Normative. Right? I can't believe I just said that. Let me go wash out my mouth because I don't like these academic words. Right? Ahl Sunnah, right? Yeah. So that's one thing I regret. So you always regret stuff. So I'm not saying kids like I'm belittling them. Tomorrow they'll be adults. They might be better than me.
Inshallah, they're young because the saddest, most depressing and despicable thing is like an adult still carrying on like this.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
A man, a Rajul, right? Someone over 40,
an adult,
and you're still like
carrying on with these things.
Being like just come on.
You must be unemployed or something.
And you know what? Something you mentioned about like 40-year-olds. There are 40-year-olds who have lives and jobs who have no idea about 95% of the things that happen. Who are just regular masjid going.
Most Muslims don't know any of it.
No,
right. Most Muslims don't know any of it. I mean, sometimes I think to myself, like, I hope people listen to a couple episodes of us and then they just stop listening.
Listen.
Like, go to the masjid, go actually be somewhere, stop listening to.
No, come on, man. I'm trying to monetize this.
Stop listening to Safina. Stop listening to the boys in the cave. Just go do some work.
Listen,
I listened to
read some Quran.
Never mind.
Someone once said to me, "Hey, isn't this so toxic? How do you do this? Right? It's like constant toxicity and argumentation on the
Twitter
internet.
stuff. Yeah.
It's Twitter. It used to be Facebook. Facebook takes so long to load, right? Who goes?
I shut
it's
my
frustrating.
Facebook down years ago, and
nothing happened.
I don't even think about it.
And the reason is that if you when I have a page,
you have to have a page.
Yeah.
If you're
doing
an organization.
So when I do my page and I have to refresh to see what's going on, the refreshing process is so long, and the first half of the screen, they give you these boxes that have no value to you, like what images you posted, what videos you posted in the past, and these boxes I don't read. You have to click up. By the time you click up, you have to wait even more. It's like that's why the Facebook is dying out. I mean, seriously,
the code is so overloaded with all these algorithms to promote the right ads, algorithms to try to find keywords and that they can know whether or not they have to cancel and ban you and deplatform you. And then first it has to get run through the NSA and then the CIA and then all the other alphabet boys. Yeah. And then it goes to the private firms like Cambridge Analytica. Yeah. All before you can get up to your Facebook page.
So when I scroll, it takes so long that by the time I open that thing up, I'm going to open it once or twice a day. The Twitter feed, though, it's like a constant, it's very quick.
Yeah,
right?
Jack doesn't care. Jack Dorsey?
Yeah.
He doesn't care. He lets anything happen there.
Yeah, it's so quick.
It's like anything except the only thing that gets banned there is Alex Jones and Milo.
So
And Farrakhan for a while, but then they
Yeah.
brought him back and they gave him his blue check back. So he's
So-
re-verified.
so when this guy asked me, I said, honestly, every time I click it off, alhamdulillah, it's a big ni'mah to be busy in life, right? With real human beings. Like when I go to the masjid, how many people there even know that we have a podcast, right?
Even in our message.
Yeah. And I'm happy.
My friends don't listen to this.
Listen,
Yeah.
I don't want them to.
I don't
I'm
want-
happy it's
don't-
like that.
don't listen
because
to
you
this.
guys, when I walk in and none of you know what's going on quote unquote MT, this whatever phrase it.
Muslim Twitter, yeah.
Okay, that. So whenever and they have no clue, it's refreshing to me. It deletes, and then you go up. If you have a family, like your mother-in-law comes over, do you think she has a 0.5% clue? No, right? She's brings home another zone, another set of things, and it totally wipes away. So that's why I'm able to go back refreshed for more toxicity, right?
Let me tell you quickly. I was on a.
I'm gonna wear you guys down because I have a life. I'm coming back and I will wear you guys down. Right?
Remember last week when I was out of town
Yeah.
and you did that other podcast?
Yeah.
Which I listened to is really good, by the way. So on the road trip, my wife goes, "Oh, this is good. We're gonna be driving for like 5 hours,
Yeah.
4.5 hours. I can listen to the first episode of the season." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Come on, now we're in the car, man. I don't want to hear this."
So
I
the-
did the
I
same
was like,
thing.
"Can't you listen to? Can we put Quran or something? Like anything? Put the radio station on. I don't care."
Muhammad Salim is the brother who put out a message. He said, he's a good guy. And he said, he runs Imanwire. He's a good guy. He said, we don't even know what's going on in our local community, right? That might be true for people who don't have a masjid, right?
Yeah, no,
and
it's
by
true.
the way, we got a masjid that, alhamdulillah, we can get along with people, right?
Yeah.
We're actually in the minority, believe
Yeah,
it or not.
There's no
Yeah.
lawsuits.
Yeah, there's no lawsuits. There's also no like sort of hierarchy that really bothers you. Like to me, if I went to an imam and he's given fatwa that I didn't agree with, I would combust. I couldn't take it. Like I've unfortunately developed to the point that I wouldn't be able to stand it. Right. So someone giving nonsense fatwa and messing up in the job. Right. So it's sort of become a profession, and you won't be able to tolerate. You'd have to quit.
Right.
So, but many people are educated, and they go to masajid and they can't believe what's going on. They're so frustrated they leave. And these people, it's very tough for them. They can't just go make another masjid because it would be like you're dividing the community. So they're sort of not connected to any masjid life. I feel for them.
May
Right.
Allah protect what we have here, because it's actually a real community.
Yeah.
I mean, like just today, I was late. I was engaging in some business, and I was with Sammy's nephew,
Which one?
Sammy Kadovic's nephew, and Mustafa.
Mustafa Turan. Yeah.
And then also Dr. Zaglu's wife came over to talk to my wife about the thing that we were engaging in. So like this is just the community,
Yeah.
right? Like we see them outside and we interact with them and we do business with each other,
Yeah.
and we visit each other outside of. It's not just we see people in the masjid and we go, "Hey, I remember that guy's
Yeah.
Ahmed or Muhammad or somebody."
Yeah. The
Like,
lines cross on so many different levels.
Yeah, we try hard to do that.
And I think it's just happened by itself. Really, it's from Allah.
It's organic.
It's organic. Happened
Nobody
by itself.
forced it.
Yeah.
Nobody forced it. Yeah.
And honestly, we have to say that the masjid was founded with a pure intention by Imam Zaid, right? So, and every time I see Imam Zaid, anyone, I'm telling you, be honest with you. Okay, people don't like that how much he supports Hamza Yusuf because Sheikh Hamza has this UAE thing. All right, that's your opinion. Fine. But the man, if you have any ill will towards the man, you are making a big mistake. This is one of the softest, kindest imams that you'll ever find.
MashaAllah, he is.
Okay, so say, oh, they want him to take a strong position. What are you talking about? That's not the judgment of Allah Ta'ala. You're gonna on a person. Let's be honest. You can maybe, as the profession of imam, you don't like the way he's doing his job. Firstly, you don't even know Fatiha properly, right?
You don't know istinja, right? And like you're
Give me right now the sunan of ghusl. All of those people, quote unquote, canceling imams. Firstly, you got to be someone to cancel. You're not even someone, right? Like you're not someone of worth to cancel. It's not like you're Netflix canceling a contract that you're someone, right?
By
That
the
your
way,
cancellation is. is worth it.
Let me tell you
Right?
something. That cancel thing,
Yeah.
it's goofy, and it's
Can you explain
and
it
it's
to
some.
me?
Oh, I'll explain. That's exactly what I'm gonna do.
What
I'll
is-
explain it to you very simply. It's literally the blacklisting of the 1950s, except that it's not organized by the government, so it's disorganized.
McCarthyism.
It's a bunch of people going, how many retweets or how many likes or how many thumbs up can I get on this saying we cancel that guy? But it's blacklisting. It's like you don't have the right ideas, so you're not allowed to participate
okay,
in,
but
in
I
public
This is
life.
it's
I
SJW medicalism.
It's
Because
exactly it.
yeah,
You're off the
medicalism.
manhaj.
You're off the minute. Medicalism is the extreme of Salafism
Sheikh
from
Bazmoul.
Abu
Salafi Talk Radio?
Yeah, Salafi Talk Radio, yeah.
Abu Rab. I have something to say about Salafis too. It's not a bad thing. Abu Rabi al-Madkhali is a man who said if you have he has such a narrow view of what is a Sunni, and if you're not a Sunni, you're canceled.
By the way, I meet so many of his followers that are such nice people.
Really?
But
Okay.
Yeah, not to each other. Maybe they're nice to us because we're like not even Muslim. I don't know, Allah Alam, right? But to amongst each other, they're very strict.
Yeah.
But to like people like us, they're kind of like, hey, how you doing, buddy?
Well, I have a friend. I have a friend from Texas, right, named Abu Sulaiman, Brandon, and he taught me about this because he knew about this stuff, and he says the Madkhalis, what they do is chain tabdiya. So you're an innovator because, for example, you would be an
That's so great.
you would be an innovator by association.
That's the
like-
original blockchain.
Yeah,
We're gonna
blockchain.
block you through that chain.
You do one thing like you
Come on,
quote
man.
Sayyid Qutb, innovator. Okay.
Well,
You quoted the person who quoted Sayyid Qutb. You're an innovator. Okay. You didn't make tabdiya. You didn't claim innovation upon the person who quoted the person who quoted Sayyid Qutb. You're an innovator,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's-
So it ended up everyone's an innovator.
sounds
Okay.
like the subcontinent.
dude, it's like you having canceled Kevin Hart. Forget that. You didn't cancel the guy that didn't cancel Kevin
Yeah.
Hart. Wait, you didn't cancel the entire city of Philadelphia because they didn't cancel Kevin Hart?
And the TV station
You're all
that's
canceled.
so what did Kevin Hart do, by the way?
He made a joke about if his son was gay, he would have a negative reaction.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's terrible. Like, and it was like 10 years ago, and it's joking among friends, but it was
Yeah.
public. He said he said something like, if my son was like acting gay,
Yeah.
I'd like get a dollhouse
Smash a house on
hit
him or something.
but a dollhouse.
A dollhouse, yeah.
Yeah.
He was like, here.
Listen, anyone who ever has to succumb to that crowd, right? You're in trouble. You're just gonna get
But-
canceled at some point or
Oh,
another.
before
You're
we move on,
completely getting canceled.
Because hopefully everybody's very engaged now. Can we get a dot for Kareem's daughter?
MashaAllah.
And let's get it
Okay,
worldwide,
so-
inshallah.
What's that?
Let's get it worldwide. Or
Yes, a worldwide dua for
like
this
all 5
beautiful,
people.
beautiful.
listening to this.
By the way, this is an amazing story. By the way, firstly, that this sister Alicia came into the community, alhamdulillah, in a manner that she was always so
Like from day one.
from day one, right? And she married Kareem Rifa'i, who's from Nigeria. His Egyptian name, very Egyptian name.
Yeah,
But
super.
so
It's
the
a very Sufi
baby,
name.
yeah, the baby is now Hadia Aduni Yamisi Ava Rifa'i. Because in Nigeria, okay, I think it's like the immediate relatives all get to choose a name, and you add them all up.
MashaAllah.
Because Dikembe Mutombo has like 9 names, right? I saw that, and it's an African heritage that each relative gets to choose a name. So I'm guessing that's what's happened. So she has a beautiful name, Hadia Aduni Yamisi Ava Rufai. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make her from the ulama and the salihin.
Ameen.
Okay, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make her a qurrat ayn for her parents and a righteous daughter. And may Allah make sure that give her a astaghfirullah, make sure. May Allah ta'ala give her a spouse who is also equally righteous and give them grandkids who will please them in this life and the next.
Ameen.
Uh,
And with the same spirit of their parents, so that this masjid will, in this community, will continue to function at a high level.
yes, inshallah,
Ameen.
bi'idhnillah ta'ala. Because Alicia she is the convert coordinator.
Yeah.
And she had to step down, and Thomas is now the convert
Mashallah.
coordinator. So they can
Tom.
coordinate. Yeah.
Shout out to Tom.
So,
So-
while we're on that, I'd like
Yeah.
to do one more shout out. So
What is it?
we have another brother. His name is Hamza Aziz.
Hamza Aziz is a great brother from Toronto.
Mashallah, yeah. So he actually gave me some fruit, some mangoes to bring to Dr. Shadi.
Oh, mashallah.
But I wasn't able to bring them across the border.
Allahu Akbar.
So
Come on, man.
they were
You
from,
can't trust an Indian with
so-
mangoes, bro.
So they were Pakistani mangoes. They were
Yeah.
like very famous.
They didn't make it.
Pakistani
I get
mangoes.
it.
They didn't make it. So I just wanted to, may Allah increase Hamza Aziz.
Ameen.
He's a very beautiful brother.
And let me say a couple things too.
Wait,
You want to say something?
who has the Portuguese named mangoes? Which one is it?
Which
Is it
one
the
is that?
Indians or the Egyptians? Alfonso, yeah.
The Alfonsos?
Yeah.
I think it's
Alfonso with an
South
S.
American, right?
Is that Mexican?
I thought those were the ones that were either in Egypt or in.
It might be. Pakistan has what are they called? I'm not Pakistani, but I don't know. I think they're called.
Well, the Nigerians do now have the big green mangoes.
Yeah.
Big green mangoes, yeah.
Yeah, but anyways, I was going
Sorry.
back to the cancel thing. So, one, I think this is ridiculous, but don't you at least the Madkhalism thing? They
Yeah.
have a list, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Of principles.
Yeah, you have. They actually had a physical list of
The
people.
people, yeah.
Of the people
Yeah.
who were on the blacklist.
yeah.
It's a
when it
not
came,
list.
When it came to McCarthyism, there was still you're canceled for some. How does that work in the Muslim world? What do you mean you canceled the sheikh?
Well, I'll tell you what cancellation is to
okay,
me.
let's say they canceled the Safina podcast. Who is they?
Yeah.
Right?
Listen.
This isn't the government.
Yeah.
It's okay, some random dude.
Right.
Which is why I said you got to be someone to cancel, right?
Some random dude.
Yeah, it's irrelevant.
Listening to us in his mom's
Well-
basement, and he's like, "Oh, I don't like this. I'm gonna cancel you." Cool, bro. Don't listen to us.
Okay. Listen, I
Okay,
mean,
so this is the thing that I showed Dr. Shadi earlier. I'm gonna read the whole thing. It said somebody, some dude on Twitter was like, Hamza Yusuf has really dug his fanboys into a hole this time, and there's no getting out. And I was like, bruh, Twitter comments are of no consequence in real. What are you talking? What hole? with who? You? You're not even. It's not even your real name, and you have a picture of Imam Shimon. Who are you? Nobody cares.
I'll tell you the only value of this cancellation. If you're taking theology from a person, and he turns out that he went crazy, right?
Uh-huh.
He turned into some sect or something, right? You stop listening. That's it, right? That's the only value that this thing has in our lives, right? That's only that's
it's
it.
irrelevant.
So,
But-
anybody else is it's your sheikh and you can't take obviously, or somebody's openly
look, here's one thing though.
but this stuff is just silly.
One thing I do want to throw, and this is kind of the opposite of what we've been saying the last half hour, is does that mean that you shouldn't say anything or be quiet when there is legitimate oppression, right? I mean, I think that's
Nah, man, you should say it. Yeah.
And is it okay?
Raising awareness is legitimate, man. But
Oppression and those who help the oppressor.
yeah,
And Hassan al-Basri, listen to this though. Hassan al-Basri, a man came to him and he said, who prays with him in the masjid all the time in Basra, and he said to him, Ya Imam, I make the thobe for Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, but I don't support him. He said, by making his thobe your supporter. Any inch of support to that zalim who's killed people in public.
it's the guards the guard that was watching over Imam Ahmed when
Yeah.
he was incarcerated, and he said, he was a Muslim though, so he's a believer. So he said, "Yeah, Imam, am I considered one who assists the oppressor?"
Yeah.
Imam Ahmed famously said, "No, the one who cuts your hair and sews your clothes is assisting the oppressor. You are the oppressor."
Oh man.
And he's not the
Subhanallah.
Khalifa, but he works directly for him.
Subhanallah.
So-
And that's why Fir'aun wa Haman wa junuduhuma. Right? Pharaoh, Haman, and all of their supporters, their soldiers. So, but are we going to start making a chain reaction type of thing? A chain tabdiya? All right, so you're an oppressor. You're a supporter of an oppressor. You looked at a supporter. Okay, we have to have some.
I mean,
so
you know what that ends up at?
Yeah.
That ends up in everyone who lives in Western lands and pays taxes there or doesn't actively oppose their government are fair targets for suicide bombers.
which is Zawahiri's fatwa.
so ridiculous.
Bin Laden and Zawahiri's fatwa. So, but to make it clear, I feel that any ruler who has a black, has blood on their hands or has done wrong, it's very much similar to intoxicants. It's very much similar to illicit gender interactions. Stay as far away as possible.
Yeah.
You come close to it, you will mess yourself up, right?
Yeah.
Like if you talk in any way, shape, or form inappropriately to, or even close to inappropriately to another sister, you're gonna have a problem in your household.
Right.
Your wife is not gonna be happy, right? And you should be happy that, because that's what protects marriages. Ghira protects marriages, right? So I have no problem not making fun of it. I think it's a good thing.
I mean, talk to the sister's father.
Yeah.
And then your wife might have a problem with that too, but at least you're had at it.
if you're talking, you're talking for some legitimate purpose, right? There's nothing that needs to be private between you and some other random sister.
No.
If it's a work sister, put another colleague on, right?
Yeah.
If it is a community member who has a question, for example, my wife, and not only my wife, many of my colleagues at Safin Society, all my pages are open. All the messages. If someone sends me a message, right? You say something? If anyone sends me a message, they don't read it, but they could, right?
Yeah.
And my wife can,
Yeah.
because that's the way to avoid any type of funny business. Because you cannot have.
There's a popular thing about like guys not leaving their phones around because their wives are.
Yeah, I mean,
my phone is not locked, and my wife was thinking about traveling with her family, and I was like, "Oh, my phone is international.
Yeah.
We'll switch phones."
Yeah. There should be
Same
no
thing.
issue.
Same thing.
Intoxicants, don't even come near it. Don't come near it, right? Because it's attractive, it's nice, right? It's addictive.
Wait, not even if it's legalized?
See, but
So
but
power is no different.
But is that clarification that people are looking for? And I've listened to all of you guys for the past 30 minutes or so, even more. And yes, regular people, we can't do anything about it. That's obvious, right? And whatever we say on Twitter doesn't matter, right? But Dr. Shadi, you yourself and other people, they're in a position of power where they know those people, right? And the question is, I mean, you mentioned Imam Ahmad. Imam Ahmad has a hadith in his Musnad. He says, the Prophet ﷺ says, "You will have rulers over you, but do not aid them in their injustice or believe their lies. Indeed, whoever aids them in their injustice or believes their lies will not reach me at the fountain on the day of judgment."
Right.
So I mean, this is
It's so important.
Thing.
It is so it's worse than khamr.
Yeah.
It's worse than zina. Okay? Stay away completely. I'm telling you, if I found someone, anyone who's doing any type of abuse to others, let alone these rulers, because their abuse is huge, right? Right? Why would you come near it?
But if somebody does, if somebody that you've respected, that's led the community, it seems as if they're assisting other people. We're not saying that they are, right? Because they've made themselves very clear. They've talked about their intention, that they're trying to reduce harm, so on and so forth, right? As some of these people that are working with the UAE and so on and so forth, right? But if they're not clear about it, and
Like to everyone?
huh?
See,
Well,
that's,
not to
I think
everyone,
that's not
but-
necessary. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
And I'm not making excuses for anyone. And anybody that actually knows me in real life knows that I take issue with the unnamed, redacted name that we're the person, the elephant in the room that we're not naming, right?
Yeah.
I take issue. And in fact, my issue on that started on like September 12th or 13th, whenever that big press conference was, or the speech that the president gave, right? So from that day, I have friends that still make fun of me, and they're like, "Remember when you said about so and so?" It is what it is, right? So I'm honest about that. But also we have to parse the wording of that hadith, right?
Right.
Assist them in their oppression,
Exactly.
and believe their lies. And just because you're meeting with them and they might be using that meeting as a prop, and are you actually assisting them? Allahu alam, right? And as far as be clear and say you're not. If you're actually working a plan, and I give people the benefit of the doubt, especially people that have benefited me and thousands of others, give people the benefit of the doubt. If you're working a plan, you can't be working that guy while also simultaneously going on. I make sure that all the Muslims online see this. Hustling that dude, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm trying. I'm not out here trying. Like, come on, bro.
Sure. You don't have to. You don't have to
owe me an
explain.
explanation.
You do not owe the internet an explanation. I totally get that. Let's not even talk about this individual, right? Let's look at Egypt, right? When Morsi was in power, there were certain people. There was demonstration all over the country.
Was he though?
Right. Okay. The deep state was in power. I mean, whatever the case, when he was in power, the very senior, very famous people. I'm not going to mention their names. They're not from the U.S. They're in Egypt. They weren't talking about obedience to the ruler. Right?
True.
They
Very
weren't
good point.
They weren't talking about
Great point.
you can't do khuruj. They immediately sided with Sisi.
Yeah.
right? And
You're
the thing
totally
is-
right.
Now, here's the thing. Fine. Maybe you think Morsi is doing a lot of harm, and
I'm
you
not
cited.
uncritical, by the way.
No, I'm sure. I'm just saying, what's the ethic here, right?
Yeah.
So let's say these shuyukh, okay, fine. They think that Morsi is doing a bad job, so they side with the coup. Fine, okay. But then some of them go on TV, and they give fatwa that it's go out and kill the Rabaa protesters, kill these people like dogs and so on.
Yeah.
So my question
Yeah.
is, at what level can you say, look, you're not making any sense?
Yeah, man. No,
right?
I don't support it, by the way.
I think. Yeah.
What
yeah.
level can you cancel certain people?
Yeah.
I mean, but that's where it is, right?
Right.
At what level? Do it all day. Here's what I know for sure, right? Say that some imam, big mufti type dude goes and says, Sisi is the greatest president that ever lived. He's the sixth of the righteous guy, Khalif.
Yeah.
Whatever, right? When he took a picture on Hajj, making dua with his back to the Kaaba, he was because he just wanted to bless us with his glowing countenance, right? Whatever,
Yeah.
whatever stupidity they say. I can go, that Sheikh is wrong. He's an oppressor. He's a mubtadi. He might even be a munafiq, and he's probably getting paid. And he did it, and then he walked right around the corner and was like, "Thanks," and walked out with a bag that had dollar signs on it. The whole bit, right? You know what that accounts for? 0.
Yeah.
So what if I feel that way?
It's
But
Who the hell am I?
but there is a point though in if you're setting an example for someone,
Oh yeah.
right? So if people are watching you, let's say you had a brother, younger brother, he's
Yeah,
watching your reaction.
but-
The value is for that.
I mean, I tell him.
That's the real value.
I'll pull him aside and I go, that
That
guy.
guy?
Probably a kafir.
but
So-
the point is, the reason I bring it up is because when we have stuff like this happening, right? Like when your family members or so on and so forth are killed in Syria or Egypt and so on and so forth, and people that you admire, I'm not talking about people in the U.S., right? I'm talking about other people. People that you admire are supporting these killings and in fact calling them dogs, and whereas these people are Muslim.
Yeah.
So what does that do to your idea of religion? Like these people are the senior ulama or so on and so forth.
To me,
Oh
And
man, you
these-
gotta separate that. I'm
right?
sorry, Sheikh.
yeah.
And this is
No,
why I
go ahead.
bring it up, right? That we need to separate individuals from the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah, well, people make mistakes, and ulama are human beings, and they're going to make mistakes and sins, and major sins. And ulama can make major sins. Awliya can make major sins, right?
If all of the ulama said what I just said about Sisi. All
Yeah.
of them. There was ijma of the living scholars
Yeah.
of today. I'd be like, well, I mean, these guys.
Human beings.
I still believe in
they're
Allah
wrong.
and His Messenger, and this doesn't change my religion.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a local imam somewhere who's gonna be like,
That's all.
oh, la. So I'll just pray in his masjid.
Yeah. And they're wrong. I'm not taking my religion from them. I'm going to warn, that this is a bad example, right? And I'm going to kick and make a fuss about it so that the next generation at least doesn't do the same thing. And by the way, all these incidents, the next generation of imams, none of them are going to be stooges. Because this thing it's just gotten so big, right? The lesson has been learned. No one's going down this route anymore. And if you go down this route, there's something in your head, because look at the reaction, and not just a bunch of SOAS kids. Nazmul is not a SOAS kid. This is a smart, pious Muslim guy, right? Anyone, you go ask anyone in the masjid. I don't want any part of this stuff, right? So it's gotten out there. Okay, they did that, trial and error, maybe whatever you want to call it. It blew up. No one's going to do this again, right? I mean, a lot of things are trial and error, and a lot of things are judgment calls, and a lot of things happen so slowly without you realizing. Like 5, 8, 9 years ago, no one really looked at the UAE as the mastermind of the Arab winter, they call it, right? no one viewed it like that. So 9, 10 years ago, relationship with the UAE, not on the radar.
Yeah.
It doesn't move the needle,
Yeah.
right? Then it changed. The guy changed, or the guy grew into his position as the leader, right? Mohammed bin Zayed, he grew into it, whatever, and he started now coming on the radar. Now he's organizing coups and counter coups, right? And now he's putting in Hiftar, he's putting in Sudan, he's putting in Sisi. We didn't know this. This is something that developed, so people were already caught up with him, right?
I mean, he's doing. You know what he's doing? He's doing what all politicians have ever done. in that region.
Just be successful at it, though.
Yeah,
right?
he's competing with MBS.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's really a race between the two, right? Who's going to control the Gulf? Who's going to control the Haramain? And who's going to be the most successful? Which is why MBS is like, bruh, come through.
Yeah.
We're going to set up some deals with Israel in the north to run like that
city.
Whatever it is, KSA 2030 future Vision 2030. He's just trying to be more like the UA because he knows that things are drying up in the oil, literally, and and figuratively. And he's like, yo, these guys have a good model, and they're also as impressive as we are. So
this idea, so there's really 2 points here, and I'll get to Moyen in a second. But the first point is that, there is a type of reaction that's almost sort of, we said is sort of more of a secular almost reaction to the thing, but there's also a legitimate reaction to the thing. The legitimate one is what I said, is like there's gonna be some Quran and Hadith in the critique, and that's what many people were talking. Muslim Matters published a piece on this, right? It's like sometimes you're seeing now a lot of critiques is completely secular, right? Right. How about what about these from the Islamic perspective? And I'm telling you, from the Islamic perspective, the position of caution when it comes to imams and rulers is gonna become the norm. It's got to become the norm. How about after Noman? You don't think it's gonna become the norm?
You know why? Because the center of this, Allah Alam Sheikh, but the center of this is the Gulf, right?
Yeah.
And the entire history of KSA is collusion between vile, disgusting rulers and sheikhs that are being harsh with the people but easy on the rulers, right? I mean, to this day, it's become like they're like families now, right? So you have Al Sheikh is and then the other side it's a Saud family. Like it's like these two powerful.
No,
families.
but I'm saying these Western imams who are from another part of the world,
they're getting in on it,
right? Yeah, I mean, maybe you might be right. That'd be unfortunate, right?
Some legacies.
That'd be unfortunate. But just like when Man Ali Khan's fitna happens, right? What was the first thing that everyone did? Let's re-look at our policies relating to gender, right? So that nothing close comes to it, right?
Yeah, because that's just something close, by the way. I don't know what happened there, but
yeah.
I don't,
but let's just forget the actual thing.
That was the actual close thing.
It was an explosion, right?
Yeah.
And people took a lesson from that. Likewise, if some fitna happens with some sheikh that his financial dealings are shady, and he goes to jail on IRS charges or whatever. The next thing that's going to happen is every organization is going to go and say, let's not make the same mistake. So in the progression of any industry, there are people who step on mines, right? And the next generation benefits from this by saying, let's not step on that mine, right? Let's put a huge circle, a red circle around that mine and not even come up 10 miles from it. So that's what I feel is the silver lining on this whole thing, right? Yeah. And if people don't take heed, and if history repeats itself, then we're stupid.
Sheikh, and the only reason I said that I don't know if that's going to work is because this is that landmine was already outlined for us before it ever happened by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
But people don't take heed until they see it explode.
Yeah.
That's
what it is. Yeah, you're right.
It's like you circle the landmine, but the marking gets stepped on by so many people over the years. You forget it's there.
There's the other side of it. Like, say you have a ruler who's like legit, seems like a legit guy. And no ruler's perfect. That's why he's a politician, right? He's a guy who was like, I can do this better than everybody. Yeah. So already kibbled and stuff, but whatever. So, but he's decent. Yeah. A decent ruler, somebody that you want ulama around him.
You do.
You want good ulama around him.
Totally.
The kind that'll advise. And he probably, if he's a decent ruler, he wants that. Yeah. So, what are we supposed to do with that?
No, here's the thing. You want them around. Your slippery slopes always happen. Let's say, okay, we all learned a lesson. And then 15 years later, 30, 40, 50 years later, we got a great ruler, right? I wouldn't have a problem going to talk to him, right?
By the way, 70 excuses, right? Suppose that upper level ulama in the region got the word that, listen, Hillary Clinton's taking Morsi out, right? Morsi's out.
That's not a myth.
I didn't say it was. But no, I'm saying that they knew about it, right? So say senior level ulama in that region that interact and come there and come and go from there or live there, we're told, this guy's out. This is not going to... don't go around saying it on TV because we'll kill your children,
Mhm.
right? And that's not an exaggeration of how this works. We'll torture your children and then kill them. So don't go around. But I'm telling you right now, don't side with this dude because it's gonna be the most that you can do. Stay in your lane. Don't say anything. When we install the next guy, be nice to him. Otherwise, we'll just ban your religion completely.
Bro, so that's why
Allah, right? That's not any excuses.
sometimes being a public scholar is a big problem. It's a big fitna.
I would never want it for myself or my descendants because
Yeah,
It's
it's
tough.
a big
it's a no-win.
Yeah.
It's a no-win.
Yeah.
And you got to hope that you're playing a high enough level of chess that on the day of judgment your moves are not are forgiven.
Yeah.
You have to you have to be prepared for Toba and hope for mercy because
Your
you will
moves
make a
affect
mistake. You will make
generations,
mistakes. You'll make mistakes because the pressure is serious.
And the thing is that I always felt that the safest place, the best place to be a Muslim is a just country that where the Muslims are an insignificant minority, right? Not significant minority to shake up anything, right? So that even if you have a little following amongst the Muslims, your
Nobody
following
cares.
is insignificant. The ruler doesn't care about your following because in the Muslim countries, the sheikh's got like millions of people listen to him, right?
Yeah.
Some of these popular mashayikh. So the rulers really care about them.
Be Anas ibn Malik.
Yeah. Anas ibn Malik had no followers, right? And he was able to talk to the rulers and talk to people without necessarily having crowds, right? So, yes, I know that the ruling is that to live with Muslims, right? And I actually wrote down...
I mean, we live with Muslims here.
Yeah, we live with Muslims. Alhamdulillah for that. Imam Malik, he said that in the Sharh al-Kabir, Malik hated even going to the lands of pagans to trade, let alone living Muslims. And he said that, number one, you might not be safe from falling into sinful contracts, agreements, or laws. That's number one, right? Number two,
For sure, America.
he said it's not honorable.
Uh-huh.
And I tell him it isn't honorable, right? When you're like saying, when you're, what you believe the whole world, the society's against, it's not an honorable thing. It's like, I'm like humbled here, right? I can express myself.
Well, that's a lot of Muslim countries now.
Yeah, I know. And third, it results in a slow erosion in care for the deen.
Yeah.
It does,
Because
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
because when the whole society doesn't care about like salah or hijab or rules of riba or touching or whatever, then you slowly will not care about it either. So that's why Imam Malik didn't like people going to those lands, let alone living in those lands. Now I asked some scholars, what is our rule on the lands where we're able to live? Right? They said, well, there's no classical position on it because there is no such thing in the past.
Yeah. I
Right.
can imagine.
But it is a reality, whether we like it or not. This is the reality. Probably 100 million Muslims live in English-speaking countries, or the
Yeah.
Western world and Australia.
I mean,
Right.
the people who did trade, at least they were. I mean, a lot of Islam spread that way. A lot of the deen split in a lot of way because of those people.
Yeah.
But it's
Indonesia-
there's the safe position, and then Imam Malik's position was for himself, and in the wise position, but it's not a fatwa, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, because he said, I hate it.
Yeah.
He didn't you make it a hukum. So, and sometimes they say that when Malik says, I hate, it means that he considers it haram, but he didn't have the airtight evidence,
Right,
right?
of course.
So, you have something to say more?
Yeah. Since we're getting to almost 2 hours here.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to bring back that we talked about earlier is this idea of poking the bear in Imam Hussein, right?
Yeah.
That was an important thing that happened, and speaking out against oppression in the right way is extremely important,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
right? And I think, putting people down because of that is also not the right attitude.
Putting who down?
Putting people who speak out against oppression down is not the right attitude. And I think you have
If
those
people
those
who
as
do
well.
it correctly, for sure.
Right, and you have that as well. So I think, like Alex mentioned earlier, life isn't black and white, right? It's very gray, and especially these situations are very gray. And I think one thing that people tend to do often, right, is the things that are meant to be black and white, they don't make them black and white, and the things that are meant to be gray, they don't make them gray, right? And it's almost a flip, right? When we take people's character,
Like gender.
right? Like, for example, take people's character.
It's been a while.
Been a long time.
Like, take people's character, right? It is oftentimes very gray, right? There's not everyone is black and white, but when it comes to elements of action, right? When it comes to deen, when it comes to things that are supposed to be correct and incorrect, those can be black and white, right? So, for example, someone who makes a political decision, the decision itself can be black and white. The character of the person can be gray, right? And that's, I think, something that is very clear when you look at history, when you look at current situations. People take actions that happen and immediately, oh, you're canceled. Oh, you're this. Oh, you're that.
I mean,
that and you almost get the flip, right? Whereas Islam says, look at the person's character, right? And understand that there are shades of gray and not everything is black and white. Right?
even bad people have good.
Absolutely.
And even good people have. This will be my closer. Since we're talking about rulers, just to talk about our current emir, number 45, Donald J. Trump.
Yeah.
This guy's great, man. So he just fired.
Let's just end there.
He just fired John Bolton,
Yeah.
right? Who's a warmonger, who's a neocon, who's one of the most despicable human beings ever to be in public office. And if you don't know who John Bolton is, look him up. He served under Bush as ambassador to the UN. This is a guy who's never seen a country he didn't want to blow up, murder, and invade, right? Trump may not have even heard of him before he took office, but apparently he got some, and he hired this guy, right? And then as soon as he got to know him, he spent every other moment of his term serving under Trump clowning him.
Oh my
Like
God.
they would be in meetings and somebody would mention someplace and he'd go, "Is that one of the places you want to nuke?" And there's even somebody, some insider, somebody said that he met with like the ambassador of Ireland was in the White House, and it's like Trump walks in and they go, "Mr. President, present to you, Patrick O'Malley, ambassador from that's very racist." Patrick O'Malley, ambassador from Ireland, and he shakes his hand, welcome, pulls him in. He does the Trump handshake where he grabs you, and he pulls you, and tries to dominate, and then he glances over his shoulder and he goes, "Well, is this guy one of the countries you want to invade?" And then he fired him.
Yeah, the thing is that
Oh, it's like working at a small company and your boss has all the jokes and he's kind of a jerk.
the thing is that the only negative is that it's reality, but that he actually impacts reality. But as a comedy mind, I mean, the guy is such a major league troll. Now, the funny thing is that if you go to Donald J. Trump and you type in a wrong sub code after the slash, you get the error page for his website. You know what his error page is?
What?
It says, "This page does not exist," and it's Hillary Clinton at a White House podium.
The guy's a mastermind,
I'm telling you. So, but what you were saying is very important, and I'm telling you, when you need to take action, opinions about a matter could be gray. There could be a lot of gray. However, when you need to take action is a yes or a no. You got to either move or you don't, right?
Yeah.
So your personal policy will eventually become a black and white. So you end up needing to make a personal policy, right, or an organizational policy, right, or a fiqhi policy. That's what the dominant opinion is usually based upon, that, right? So I would have to say that the best personal policy for an imam, at least for myself, let's say someone who has to work as an imam, right, is to make a big fat line around certain things. Don't even come near it. It just ruins everything. So these engagements, it'll just ruin everything, right? So someone's got to do it, but not me. I'm not doing it. I'm not touching it, right? And I would hope that my circle, don't even touch it, right? So it's just like, if there's a problematic family down the road and like in a neighborhood, and they come out without their clothes, their dog doesn't have a leash, we had a family that the dog doesn't have a leash.
Yeah.
German Shepherd, no leash. That's crazy, right? So what is a safe thing to do? To take the bike route down that road and just get scared? And no, you skip the road completely. That road is off limits. The whole road is off limits, right? The whole cul-de-sac is off limits. So when you need to take action, you do need to take black and white. It's just important to couch that and say, as Imam Malik used to say, I hate this, right? Or I do like this, or I wish this. It's because you can't make an airtight ruling, but you do need an action. So I would say for our organization, that's going to be our thing. You're not going to engage in any of these types of thing. That seems the safest position. I'm not saying that it's the only thing. Oh, well, if someone's an oppressor, then that's completely haram, right?
Yeah. No, but no government contracts, man. We're not doing this.
No
to get
government
rich.
contracts. Government contracts. Like, why even go on the field to begin with? Like, think about this. Like, you're a fiqh teacher. You're a mudhakkir. You remind people of Allah.
I mean, it's always the same. And I don't mean this like it's always the same story.
Yeah.
It's always the same. I think intention, legitimate. It's if I don't do it, they're gonna grab some guy who doesn't care about the Muslims, and he's gonna join up. At least I can try to,
see.
Allah.
That's true, but you know what? In as a not as a moral thing, but as a professional thing, in action, what I really love is someone who specifies their actions, right, and their goals.
No, you can't do it in that field.
You can't do it in that
This is why I said anybody who takes a position in a government agency or something like that.
Yeah.
You might be an incredibly knowledgeable faqih and a scholar, but you're not an Islamic scholar anymore. Now you're a politician.
You're a politician.
Because you can't do both.
You can't do both.
You can't do
so
both.
that's why.
I just had a real quick question before we move on to Naz's last point. Tunisia.
Yeah.
Did they ever rebel against anybody?
Tunisia?
Like,
is there even a history book on Tunisia?
We need a son of Saad.
Where's son of Saad? I mean, who the heck knows anything about Tunisia? They had Carthage, right?
They weren't under the Ottomans, right?
No, they weren't.
Yeah.
They were on. What were they?
They were so North Africa revolted and then just stayed.
Revolted
broken.
against who? The Umayyads?
The
Abbasids.
Abbasids.
Well, that was.
But
right.
okay, so Morocco. We know about Morocco. What was Tunisia?
I think it's the same. I think it was the same thing.
There was no boundary called Tunisia.
It was Al Maghrib. Yeah. The reason I ask is because they did okay. They succeeded in their they were the first one and they had Tawfiq in that.
Yeah.
Everybody else that tried it rebelled against the Ottomans 100 years ago and has had like nothing but
problems
ever since.
Yeah.
And it's not the fault of the people on the ground.
That's true.
But that leadership, it's every single cycle gets worse. By the way,
it is.
Like you left the Ottomans, you sided with the British and the French, who bamboozled you. I used it as a verb the other day, peak psychoing.
Yeah.
Pico cycling.
Yeah.
Sykes-Picoing.
Yeah.
Sykes-Picoing. You got Sykes-Picoed.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. Totally.
And ever since then, every time you've overthrown one of your guys, whether successful or not, it gets worse.
Yeah.
Right? And one of the sheikhs that I really, that is genuine and I really do listen to, and I would never have any critiques like this of, he said years ago, 20 plus years ago, why don't we try to overthrow all these, corrupt and evil leaders? We'll get crushed. The people will get crushed and they'll be murdered and the women will be raped and driven into prostitution and the children will be homeless and won't be educated, the whole thing. And even if we succeed, the very next day, the intelligence agencies will raid us and put in whoever they want.
Yeah.
Right? Which is exactly what happened in Egypt.
Yeah.
So either you're going to get crushed and destroyed or you might succeed with Allah's stuff, and then the intelligence agencies come in and they're going to knock it out and they're going to put in one of their puppets who's going to be more oppressive. Like it's not criticizing the people who are facing oppression and they don't know what to do except lash out.
Yeah.
That may Allah protect them and forgive them if they make any mistakes. But on the bigger scale, come on, man, you can't be naive. You're not going to win. I don't care how many Hizb ut-Tahrir books you read.
And this is a brilliant point, and I want to look back to the comment I made about Muawiyah radiallahu anh. What he had was a practical political genius, right? And Umar radiallahu anh had this too, right? Practical political genius.
Well, Ibn Abbas said that Abu Bakr and Umar were more pious, but Muawiyah was more astute.
And because he spent time in Syria, he saw how things were run. And the point I was trying to make when I made that comment was, if you're doing tahajjud, mashallah, you're a scholar, you're an amazing person, right? In character, you're an amazing person. Yeah. As soon as you enter the political arena, that's another science, right?
Thing, yeah.
It's the science of Machiavellian do's and don'ts, and worming your way to achieve your ends. And this is why a lot of the Muslim movements that you see in the world today, they've all failed not because they weren't maybe on the haqq, not because they were Salafi or this and that, but because they lacked that political acumen to understand that, wait a minute, we don't actually own Egypt, right? America owns Egypt, right? Or, when you get into power, you don't suddenly say, oh, we're going to implement the Sharia and then alienate all your allies, right? Yeah. This is what happened with, anyway, I won't mention that. But the point...
by the way, rahimahullah, sincere, honest, good guy, religious, and all that kind of stuff. lack the political acumen to not even know that you don't run the first year.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like,
And this is and the thing is that we can't just say, oh, because this person lost, this person Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is against. No, this is a completely different science. You don't say, for example, you don't say a scholar who went to play soccer, right? He's like, I'm gonna try out for the soccer tournaments, and then he gets just destroyed, right? He's playing soccer, he has a heart attack, he dies. Now you're gonna say, oh, Allah punished him because no,
man, but those lands, they rebelled against the Ottomans, who were legitimate rulers, and they haven't had anything.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
been rough ever
I'm not
since.
talking about Saudi. I mean, that's a whole different story.
No,
right?
I'm not talking about Saudi either.
Or the Najdis.
No.
But
I'm not talking about them either.
All the Arabs.
Yeah.
It's the whole entire. It's everybody except the North
Iraq?
Africans, man.
Yeah.
Iraq, Saudi.
All the fake countries that
Egypt, Syria.
all the fake
Exactly,
countries
yeah.
that the French and the
Yeah.
British created
Yeah.
drew up borders and said,
And
"Here's your
Yeah.
fiefdom."
That's
Yeah.
the Sykes.
And
Like
this is why what Alex said, we can't be naive anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can't be naive. Like when people go into politics, when Muslims go into politics, you can't just think, oh, I'm just gonna recite Quranic verses to the oppressor and he's gonna come to my side. I mean, you can't, no, I don't want to make fun of the Quran, but
No, making fun of the
That's-
oppressors.
yeah.
That's why I'm
Yeah.
saying. That's what I'm saying. If you're Adam, if you're a professional in any field, define your field. This is what I do, and this is what I don't do. So now it's clear. I hate this thing where you're switching sides and going back and forth, and I don't know what you are anymore, right? Like when I used to be a fan of Steve Jobs' work, right? Because I knew exactly what he does, and I know what he doesn't do, right? Like Elon Musk is a great thinker and everything, and an innovator, but what is he? He's got hands in a million pots. I don't like it.
I don't know if he actually does anything.
He doesn't do anything. Smokes marijuana these days. Google, right, is a company. Everything they make and everything they produce is going to be easy to use and quality, but there's no grab to them. What do? Their hands in is everything, right? Their hands in every pot. I actually, when you look at Mashayikh, I always go back to Sheikh Nuh. I know exactly what he stands for, right? He knows exactly what he's going to do and what he doesn't do. It's so crisp and clear, right? It's so much better for everything, right? So you know exactly what the result is going to be. There's no khuld. You know this word in Arabic, khuld, is you're dabbling. Why are you dabbling in stuff that's not your business, right? Are you a teacher of fiqh? What exactly are you? Teacher of fiqh? Teacher of hadith? Wa'idh? A wa'idh means someone who just advises people, hit the speaker circuit, say the nice things to get people's hearts going, right? Are you a leader of an organization? Are you a leader of people? Like, what are you exactly? It's really important to make that clear in every profession. Like, you don't dabble in law. You have a certain role, right? You don't go and say, you know what, tomorrow I'll do real estate.
Nope.
Tomorrow I'll take a murderer for trial.
New Jersey State Criminal Trial Practice rules.
Yeah.
Period.
That's it, right? So some people. This is a personal thing. This is not a religious ruling, right? It's a personal thing that you got to know what you're going to do and what you're not going to do, right? And if you don't know those and you leave it open-ended, you might end up stepping on a booby trap somewhere, right? And going somewhere and stepping on a mine because you're entering into a field without preparation, without thinking, without, like media, for example. When the media comes, I don't talk to them. When the NBC and all these people, I don't talk to them, right? Sometimes they drag me to talk to them. I don't want to talk to them, right? Because there's certain ways that you can't, like, it's a whole nother thing, the media.
Yeah,
right?
listen,
I don't want to talk to them.
That's right. The do it all.
Yes,
the
this is
jack of all
horrible.
trades, imam.
Yeah. It's horrible.
You know, he's a master of none.
Yeah, he's master of none. Like, all of the...
Shout out, formerly Muslim kafir guy that does comedy.
Who's that? Oh, yeah.
Aziz.
Yeah.
Also a victim of cancellation.
Yeah, cancellation.
He had a show. It was called Master of None,
Let's-
Oh,
let's-
really?
let's-
which
Okay.
is the opposite of jack of all trades, master
Yeah.
of none. Right?
And so in the masjid, I make it very clear. For example, this is what I'm doing. Don't anyone come near it, right? And I'm not going to come near your business. I'm not going to ask for the books. I'm not going to ask for the donor list. I'm not going to go into the kitchen. I'm not going to do the inner community stuff, right? Right? Like the community stuff, the outreach stuff.
Yeah.
Not the outreach like feed the poor, that I do, but
Community relations.
Community relations. I don't need to do that stuff. I'm going to teach my class. I'm going to make sure it's done in a way where you are always respected. I'm never going to undermine the bosses. At the same time, I'm not going to at the same time go into any other matter, right? And it works that way.
Yeah.
Every company that succeeds, it has a clear definition. And individual mashayikh as well should have a clear. If you're an activist, be an activist.
It's like this podcast.
Yeah.
I crack jokes and say outrageous things.
Yeah.
You provide actual knowledge. Moeen moderates and sets the schedule.
Yeah.
And he just gave me a look, so that means I'm taking off my headphones.
Nazmul does the research. Moeen
that's
wants
right.
to shut down.
By the way, Nas has a staff now.
Yeah, he's got a staff, by the way,
So-
mashallah.
Shout out to Nas, the youngest boss
Yes.
ever.
So shout out to Tamim and Fahim. who's,
Last thing, because Moeen, who is actually the boss of the podcast in a sense, because
That's
he
right.
wants us to open and close.
He's the EP.
Huh?
He's the EP.
Which is?
Executive producer.
Okay, he's the EP. And I want to say one last thing. Just a lot of toxicity. And Moeen was talking to me and says he's so disgusted and hates this stuff. And he's like, you know what? And I agree. The argumentation is no good. And I said it before, and I'll say it for the third time. I'm not happy sometimes that there's some conflict with other Muslims. I'm not happy about that. I'll never will be. Like I said, I don't mind having any conflict with an explicit proponent of some sect or enemy of Muslims. Right? I have no problem with that. I want that. Some of the brothers who are like Hanbalis, right? They're Hanbalis in a gray area of whether they call it Hanbali or Salafi. I don't even know, right? Whatever they want to call it. They thought that I'm talking about them when I said the Mubtada, Allah puts a mark on their face, right? Or a mark on them. And we said a couple episodes back, the Shia, for example, have flagellation.
Yeah.
It's almost like Allah has put that upon them so that a regular common man says, that's not Islam. Cancelled, right?
Right.
Likewise, I said the Mujassima and the literalists, ultra-literalism, results in an ugliness, right? It's true.
Khuruj too.
Go to Judaism. Ultra-literalism. You look at it, like every time you see kids walking by, they're like looking, staring. What the heck? Why is he doing that to himself? Curls, humongous beard, sloppy, right? Hey, they say, oh, you're going to make fun of the Orthodox. I'm telling you the reality of what people think.
It's not the sunnah, by the way. You know what it is?
Yeah.
I mean, the curls are the curls, right? You're not supposed to cut certain hair. But the dress code, that's the sunnah of some Russian. And
Yeah.
I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. Their Grand Rebbe was Russian dude from 200 years ago.
So
That's why they look like they're from Russia 200 years ago. Got a fur hat on in New Jersey and
Yeah.
all this. Come on, homie. What are you doing, bro?
what's
not
what I'm
PC.
saying?
This is not PC.
What I'm saying?
It's like wearing like Habib. Habib has that fur hat. That's for Dagestan, bro. That's not for Florida.
Las Vegas.
I think it's time to wrap up.
So what I'm saying is, this tajseem, any innovation that's explicit innovation, Allah Ta'ala will mark it and will put a mark on those people so that the regular common person knows this is wrong. And one of the things about the literalism is it results in an ugliness.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, it's just, this is not something that we can deny. You just look around. Any literalist person, they have this, they've made themselves ugly. I'd say the creation was ugly. They made themselves like that.
Oh, yeah.
In Judaism, in Islam, in Christianity, literalism results in that. In anything, okay?
I've never had trouble differentiating Muslim from Hindu
Yeah.
Indians.
Okay, Hindu.
Like, never.
Okay,
Like,
it
you
has the
just
same
look at
thing. Yeah. So that's this point. There's nothing controversial about that. There's nothing offensive about that. So for some of the, and I've said on the same podcast, if you're like a Hanbali or like a Salafi who's not fighting, okay, I'm not talking about you, and I wasn't, right, and I'm not now, and I'm not having any beef with them because we have a lot in common and we're working for a lot of the same cause.
Alhamdulillah.
So for them to be offended, they owe me an apology, right? Right. So for you to have su'adhan with me like that, astaghfirullah, after all these years of good relations with you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And I have come to MBIC. Look how Sheikh Nasser treats me,
Yeah.
right? And he tells me straight, I'm not Maliki, I'm Ibn Taymiyyah. He tells me straight, he loves me,
yeah.
right?
I mean, Nas is probably a Tamite.
Whoa, no.
Okay,
Let's
look
not
at
go there.
Tamite adjacent.
listen, the Hanbalis, Salafis
That's a word.
of
Tamite?
of the area.
Ibn Tamite.
I never.
Sounds like termite.
A'udhu billah. A'udhu billah.
Alhamdulillah.
Ibn Tamite, like Malachite.
Tame.
Like Shaphite.
Yeah.
Like how would you do like the
Yeah, from Tame.
the Soas version of it?
Yeah.
Malachite.
Yeah. Hanafite.
Tamite.
Just
Tamite.
Tamite.
Hanbalite.
Listen, Taym is his grandmother.
Come
right?
on, I'm
So-
not attributing. Hanbalite is Hanbalite. It's attributed to Imam Ahmed.
Yeah.
Ibn Taymiyyah has his own thing, man. His own group of
Yeah.
followers. He might be a Hanbali, but his followers aren't.
Yeah. So listen, I never had.
Like Nas.
They may have imagined that. I mean, if I'm going off on innovators,
Antinomionite.
listen, if I'm going off on innovators, and someone then gets a sensitivity situation, are you an innovator? Right? Why are you getting sensitive? Right? Don't get sensitive. I'm not talking about you. I made it very clear and explicit. A clear mujassim, okay, and khawarij and kharijites and whatever. That's what I was talking about. Okay. So don't.
That's that quote from Shakespeare. The lady doth protest too much, methinks. Which people flip it. The methinks is at the end.
So, all right. Jazakumullahu khairan.
All right.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر والسلام عليكم.
صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم محمد سيد الكونين والثقلين محمد سيد الكونين والثقلين محمد سيد الكونين والثقلين والفريقين من عرب ومن عجم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم هو الحبيب الذي ترجى شفاعته هو الحبيب الذي ترجى شفاعته هو الحبيب الذي ترجى شفاعته لكل هول من الأهوال مقتحم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي صل دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير خلق الله كلهم مولاي صل دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير خلق الله كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم ثم الرضا عن أبي بكر وعن عمر ثم الرضا عن أبي بكر وعن عمر ثم الرضا عن أبي بكر وعن عمر وعن علي وعن عثمان ذي الكرم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم يا ربي بالمصطفى بلغ مقاصدنا يا ربي بالمصطفى بلغ مقاصدنا يا ربي بالمصطفى بلغ مقاصدنا جامع الكرم مولاي صل